Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome back to JT's Mixtape. This is episode number 52. And if you guys are enjoying these podcasts, please give me a 5-star review on either Apple or Spotify. And if you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. Thank you.
Come closer, my child.
What's going on, y'all? This podcast is brought to you by Modern Roots Life. Modern Roots Life is a Christian-owned and operated company, and it's bringing real health back to its roots. They offer powerful, all-natural health supplements such as beef liver, cod liver oil, beef tallow, magnesium, and mineral-rich salts, all sourced the way God intended. Clean, simple, and from the earth. So whether you're looking to boost your energy, restore mineral balance, or just fuel your family with real nourishment, Modern Roots Life has got you covered. Guys, in this community, we're trying to get healthy in our mind, in our body, in our spirit. So don't neglect your health. If you want more information, check out modernrootslife.com and check the link in my description. You know, people often ask me how they can support me. Well, I think it's pretty cool if you can support me by supporting the people who support me, and you get something in return. And being healthy is a pretty good return. Boys, what's going on? Once again, I'm your host, JT. I got my co-host with me, Tune Thy Heart, Aaron, and I also have Demon Racers. What's going on, fellas?
What's up, y'all?
Nothing much. Happy to be here. Let's talk about some stuff.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know, so it's funny. I've got a lot of videos, but there's one thing that Brian actually said this last week that really has kind of like resonated with me. It was almost like as I was listening, it wasn't really soaking it in until I was going back through it and thinking about it, was the idea that you were saying that when people see a demon, a demonic entity, it's likely that it's not really their eyeballs that are seeing it. It's like a spiritual manifestation that, you know what I mean? Like that. I think you could have two people in the room and one person would be like, did you see what that person's face did? And the other person would be like, no, I didn't, what are you talking about? And the other person knows they saw something. But what if they did not see anything? It was, you know, it was like a window into somebody's soul, but they, you know, it's like it wasn't a sight thing. It was a Holy Spirit thing, or it was a God.
The veil was lifted for a brief moment for one person, but not the other. He got me thinking about that as well. I had never really thought about it from that perspective. Not in that combination. But just not in that combination. Like, that makes perfect logical sense. And, you know, we're obviously aware that, like, some people can see things that other people can't. And a lot of that has to do with faith or understanding or just the willingness, you know, which is why children can see a lot more things than adults. And there's a lot of factors that go into it. But the premise that someone like JT and I could be in the same room and I could see someone manifesting a demon and he not see it and I'm seeing it and I'm like, no, like literally that's a reptilian.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's
exactly what happens.
You brought a new dynamic to that thought process for sure.
Sweet. Well, yeah, I mean, like, I see it. I mean, the only reason why I've had this understanding is because I've actually witnessed this like several times when I'm praying with people, and like a person's face will change. Like I've seen their face transform and other people not see it. I've seen it's happened the other way around. You know, I've seen people's more so it's happened in the situation. Like, I don't usually see people's face transform very much. When they do shift, what I've seen, I've actually seen their muscles in their face like move. But I have seen it, and I have experience with other people that saw their eyes completely change or their face completely change. And I've seen that as well too. But you know, there's a line between metaphysical sort of changes and like spiritual changes. I've come to the conclusion from all the discrepancies of experiences that it's not as much as I love cryptids, guys. I love talking about Nephilim and cryptids. As much as I love it, I've seen more experiences with people witnessing things of the spirit and they legitimately think it's real, than I have of the physical aspect of things. They just behave or manifest into a physical nature in some capacity, but only for certain people. And it's really interesting because even when we're praying demons out, they talk. Demons will talk through people's mouths, and other people won't hear what they said.
Right, because it's like
crazy.
It's like what we were talking about. We talked about this a long time ago about the movie Independence Day. And you remember in that movie, the aliens, quote unquote aliens, did not have vocal cords. So there's that scene where they had the, in Area 51 or whatever, they had the alien, and eventually they thought it's like dead or something. And then it comes to, and it takes a hold of the scientist guy, Data from Star Trek, wraps the tentacles around its neck, and all of a sudden it's doing the talking through him. So it's like a telepathic situation where that a demon could talk through a person, but yeah, maybe only certain people hear it too, right? It's like as they can't really physically do anything.
No, they're very weak in the physical sense.
It's a spiritual manifestation. And yeah, like maybe you could say, what did that person say? And the other person's look around like,
bro,
I didn't hear anything.
That's happened. I've literally witnessed this to the point where not only that, but the cameras couldn't pick it up. So the people in the room, we all heard the person that was demon possessed saying things with their mouth. Their mouth was moving. The camera recorded it even. The security camera saw them like doing this, like, but no sound coming out of their mouth. Yet everyone in the room heard what the person was saying. We could hear the other things in the room, but the words that the demon spoke out of the person's mouth, no audio on the recording somehow. And so I've had to come to the conclusion that like some of the things that we're experiencing when we're dealing with supernatural things, even though it seems totally physical, it is not. It's not totally physical. It's supernatural. You're peering into another realm. You're seeing things from another perspective or from spiritual eyes is like the only solution I've had to come to with this experience. And the fact that they can't talk, by the way, JT, is very indicative of demonic presence. Like they can't speak. And that's one of the characteristics that God has limited the Nephilim from being able to do, is to actually physically speak out their mouth, which is prophesy. And you know this throughout history. Throughout history, the stories of all the Nephilim hybrid creatures, all the creatures that were mixed animal-human, like Pan and the satyrs and the centaur, none of them could speak. The fairies, they can't speak. They speak telepathically. They speak with their mind. And when you actually read the real stories, and you're like, well, that's weird. Why do they speak with their mind? And we think that's a sign of like strength, but really it's a sign of weakness.
Well, right. And the other thing that you said too that really like solidified everything for me was the fact that they want us to think that they're really physically manifesting. Like that gives them power. That gives them
right, because it's a threat. It's a threat if it's something that could physically assault you.
Well, and by us believing that, like, remember, like, if you tie all of these things we've talked about together, by us believing that, that also, like, changes your heart rate because you think it's real. So the threat becomes real. So the fear becomes more real. So the energetic output becomes more real. So what they're receiving from that, like, they're literally, like, juicing you at that point. Like, they're getting so much from you because you fully believe that they're real and it all happened up here. And so it's like, of course they want us to think that it's real. Of course they want us to think that what we saw really happened in the physical. And then you go talk about it and you tell people about it, or people make content about it, or they put video. Like it's just like like they got this loop of energy that they're just sucking from. So like that was like a missing puzzle piece for me to so many things. Like that makes so much sense.
Yeah, demons. It's demons, bro.
It's demons, bro. You know what? What's interesting what you said though about as much as we like cryptids, the truth of the matter is, have they ever caught a cryptid? I mean, has anyone really, like, is it so much about, how does somebody perceive a cryptid? Did they actually touch one? Did they actually do anything? Or was it something they heard, something they might have smelled, something they might have seen? But what if, again, like the whole blurry creatures mythos, it's like the fact that you can't really ever get them on camera, even though people all talk about how they see them. What if those things are just appear. They're apparitions.
Yeah, but they're appearing physically in a sense that people almost see them physically, but it's actually a spiritual thing that they're seeing with their physical eyes in a sense. And, that explains why Bigfoot is able to teleport. People talk about they'll see him, like I have one friend who is on a military base, and he was looking downrange in this certain particular military base where there's this, swamp monster, Bigfoot kind of thing. I forget the name.
The swamp ape.
Yeah, swamp ape or something. Yeah. And so at the military base, he was looking down scope in the range, and he saw a person that he thought was in a ghillie suit walking across the range. And he's like, whoa, 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 whoa. He's like, hey, who's down there? And they had to halt the whole thing. And when they looked back down in the scope, the guy disappeared. And then all of a sudden they were scanning the area, and then he reappeared in another area of the field. And there was no way he could have teleported that fast to another area. And then they were watching him, and then he just disappeared again. And they like had to go down and like check the whole thing. And then their sergeant was like, don't report this. Don't talk about it. We know what it is. Don't talk about it and don't report it. And the sergeant literally told him not to.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, I guess that's the thing. It's like just because you see something does not necessarily mean it's real. Right. So, in the same
not
way
in the
that,
physical.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't mean it's a physical entity. It doesn't mean you didn't see something, but you're assuming you saw it through your regular eyeballs. If it was some kind of a spiritual manifestation, some kind of an apparition. And I think that's the interesting thing, that I've never really cared about Bigfoot before I kind of woke up to all this kind of stuff, because I just thought it was just some kind of weird ape thing. And I thought, well, I mean, I like Loch Ness Monster better. That sounds cooler for some reason. Maybe because I live by the water. But yeah, when I heard that most Bigfoot encounters are very paranormal, it's not just like some weird animal thing, some weird ape man. It's a ghost story. And that's how they're always described. So what if it actually is a ghost?
I just happened to look out, and I seen the black figure standing in the woods. It creeped me out. I thought maybe it was some person, but the more I looked at it, the more I realized that it was a lot bigger than a normal person would be. And I could see that it had like beady eyes. There were no white parts to the eye. It was just solid black, and it wasn't blinking or anything. It was just staring me down.
Seeing this instantly, I tell myself, we're looking at a Bigfoot.
They frequented the house almost every night since then, in some way or another. They're very close to me at all times now. They show up right after the sun goes down, and they leave right as the sun's coming up or shortly after.
I do think, though, that there exists a whole lot of mythical creatures in the physical. But I think that the odds are they're probably a result of genetic tampering. More so than something that just actually existed. And I don't know, I'm not recommending everyone watch this, but have you guys seen Cabin in the Woods?
I think I saw it a long time ago.
So for research purposes, you could skip past most of it. There's nudity, and there's a bunch of stupid stuff that doesn't need to be in there. But ultimately, I don't even know how to summarize it all. But like, they go to this cabin, they're in this place, they can't escape, there's an invisible force field that surrounds them. All these creatures are being let out, and you end up finding out that there's these people, the government, at the helm running these controls, and they're like rolling dice to figure out what creatures they're going to send out. Zombies, like this beast, that beast, whatever, and they lift them up, they come attack these people, and it's all for a ritual. And they're doing it as a ritual because there's something underground that demands blood. It demands blood sacrifice.
Bro, this is too terribly real to the reality of why they keep bombing people.
That's what I'm saying. So then they end up showing the facility underground. There's all these cubes holding all these mythical creatures. They're in a government facility. And then they end up stopping the whole ritual, these two people. They end up stopping the ritual. It doesn't get the blood that it wants. And the literal last scene, you can look it up on YouTube, the literal last scene is a giant titan hand punching through the ground out into the air. Like a literal titan hand.
Oh, maybe I need to watch that again.
that was the creature. So like if you can watch it and not be affected by all of that stuff or fast forward through the bad stuff, there's some nuggets there, dude. Like there are some truth nuggets there about our actual reality that all add up.
So you're curious about the monsters at the end of the movie, The Cabin in the Woods. By monsters, I'm assuming you're referring to the beings known as the Ancient Ones, which are dormant primordial gods that can be found in every major country in the world. They are malevolent beings requiring a ritualistic blood sacrifice every year in order for them not to wake and destroy humanity. They also are the main influence for the horror genre and the monsters that are within it. And what I mean by that is that every monster and horror movie within the Cabin in the Woods universe is based off of a real life counterpart. And this is born from the thoughts and urges of the Ancient Ones. So right off the bat, you can see that the Ancient Ones are pretty sadistic. The Ancient Ones used to walk and rule over the earth until an unspecified point in which humanity emerged. And instead of immediately wiping us out, they thought it would be more entertaining to let us live, but we had to adhere to certain guidelines. The guidelines, of course, being the ritualistic blood sacrifice. But the thing is, over time, it went from simple to complex. And that's because they started to get bored. It went from being as simple as throwing somebody into a volcano to having to make these complex horror movie genre-like archetypes. That's the interesting thing, because there's multiple Ancient Ones in different countries. They decided to perform a different type of ceremony in each major country. Now, I don't want to make this video too long, but if you want to hear more of the lore behind the Cabin in the Woods, that's kind of interesting, just comment down below. And I appreciate all the support you guys been giving my videos. If you enjoy my content, I appreciate a follow.
I'm also leaving room, and I always have, for the possibility that there are creatures inside the earth. Because I think that that's just, again,
I don't see how there couldn't be.
it's like hell, it's like, where, could there be physical creatures down in the earth? I mean, I think it would be, I don't know, I think it would be a little bit ignorant just to assume that just because we don't know about them doesn't mean they don't exist.
Yeah, and almost all folklore talk about them too. Like the Native American tribes, they all have some sort of story about different creatures that live in the earth.
But they might have been on peyote when they
They could have. They could have been.
Might have been seeing it, hallucinating it.
They very well could have been.
Well, that's what I said. I remember I watched that show, and I think the new season's coming up soon. Is that show Fallout? And I thought that show is just fascinating. I think it's got tons of little season mud flood vibes or whatever that's going on there. But yeah, they had these different kinds of dumbs, and it was all based on these corporations had their own vaults. And then one of them had all these mad science experiments down there. And yeah, they were literally creating some kind of hybrid, cryptid, whatever weird things down there. And so, yeah, is that possible? I mean, again, would our government, would these three-letter agencies, would they try to create beings like that?
It's not even a question.
I mean, we know that they would. So, but
Yeah.
the real question is, can they? And I think that the answer is maybe. The answer is
I
definitely
think it's a safe.
Yeah,
It's a safe yes. I think.
yeah. So I mean that it makes sense that again, there's so many weird things. I think it was really interesting. I saw somebody post this video, and they were showing all these different sea creatures. Like these kind of translucent squids and just weird things you find in trenches. And I almost kind of thought, like, what if that was some kind of a demon thing? Like, we don't even know what they are. I mean, like, do we really understand what an octopus is?
dude? That's what I'm saying, man.
They're so weird. I don't limit God.
What about those glowing ones, the glowing octopus with the little lights on them?
Yeah, no, I think that's the thing. It's like you have all these bioluminescent beings that are inside the deepest parts of the ocean. Yeah, if you believe like the biblical cosmology, yeah, that's connected with the deep. We got sirens down there singing songs that enchant men to crash against the rocks. Whatever. I mean, all the kind of mythologies about things being in the ocean kind of makes sense.
They
the idea that
thrive in darkness too is what's crazy.
Yes, yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. That it's like the deeper you go, the weirder it gets. It is like it's some kind of connection to hell, and that whole mythology about that there's some kind of underwater civilization, like Atlantis sunk, but it's also still thriving down there. I mean, that could just be the idea that they went down to hell. I mean, that's where they're down at now. You know what I mean? It's like that these hybrid Atlanteans are demons down in the deep.
I'm sure you've covered it before, but the simple fact that I think Brian might have a different opinion on NASA and space and all of that, but for those who believe that we live under the firmament and that space isn't what we're told, it would make sense timeline-wise, their exploration of the ocean and then flipping the script and then telling a false narrative about something completely different. Like, what did they find? I would love to know. I would love to know what they found. I would love to know what they ran into. I would love to know what they experienced. But it would make absolute sense that the abyss mentioned in scripture is in the ocean. Like, it makes complete and absolute sense. I mean, especially when you look at like so many of the things like you're talking about that come out from there. And how many different TV shows and movies have there been where like octopus were crazy intelligent?
Well, I think I want to say
Kraken.
that if you actually look at what the evolutionary science says about octopus or octopi, it is the dumbest crap you've ever heard. That they believe that maybe octopi came on like a comet or something like that, and it was some kind of, they were seeded from some kind of alien world. I'm not making this up. You guys
So
can
it's
look
like
this up.
partial truth, but like not.
Truth is maybe, because the thing is, if you really think about it, I mean, as dumb as the evolutionary paradigm is altogether, explain the evolutionary process where you get to that, and from what to that, because they are so bizarre. But yeah, I want to say that that's like, you guys can look this up, and obviously, maybe this is not like something all scientists hold to as fact, but there's literally no explanation for what they are.
Why octopuses might be alien life forms. In 2011, Alaskan fishermen caught a giant North Pacific octopus. It miraculously escaped from a drainage hole just 3 centimeters wide, right in front of everyone. But this shape-shifting ability is just a small part of the octopus's superpowers. Looking at this simplified evolution chart, we can see that octopuses are different from other intelligent beings. They started as flatworms around 500 million years ago, and hardly underwent any species evolution since then. It's like they suddenly appeared. Besides, octopuses are the only creatures on Earth with 3 hearts, 9 brains, and blue blood. Apart from the main brain in their heads, the remaining 8 mini-brains are distributed throughout their arms, giving them not only taste and smell, but also the ability to act and think independently. If you cut off one of an octopus's arms, you'll find it secretly senses the surrounding light and then changes color to camouflage itself. Camouflage is another superpower of octopuses. They can blend into their surroundings in less than a second, thanks to pigment cells, iris cells, leukocytes, and papillae in their skin. In addition to color changing, octopuses have a defensive skill. When they encounter danger, they shoot out a large amount of black ink from their ink sacs. On the other end of the ink sacs, there is a gland that stores venom to paralyze prey. All of these are just survival skills of octopuses. Here comes their superpower. It's their ability to edit genetic codes. They can unzip DNA like a zipper, rearrange RNA, and create new proteins to quickly adapt to the environment and evolve. It's like they're breaking away from Earth's rules of evolution.
A controversial scientist paper proposes that octopus might have an alien origin, arriving on Earth as a cryopreserved egg on comets millions of years ago. But the theory is not widely accepted by the scientist community. The paper, published in Progress in Biophysics and Molecular Biology, suggests this is a part of the broader panspermia theory.
Yeah, panspermia. Yeah, like literally, it's like
Mm-hmm.
that's some kind of, that's scientific. Give me a break.
So if you don't believe in,
meaning the Earth was somehow spermed multiple forms of life from different locations, I think is panspermia.
so if you don't believe in space, then basically what that means is they're demons. They came straight from hell.
You know, they're quote unquote aliens. They're not really. This is not their terrestrial plane they belong.
Well, I will
Ditto.
tell you, for those that haven't heard my theory, gorillas are basically Nephilim with Down syndrome. So, I mean, and if you-
how do you get to? How bad do they get off before they turn into octopi?
No, I'm just saying, like they could be Nephilim with Down syndrome gorillas, and octopuses could just be like some other kind of demon incarnate form.
Brian and I floated that idea is that if you think about it, that, okay, so we don't believe in evolution. You know, I could partially buy natural selection, like certain creatures thrive and certain ones go away and they become extinct. But by and large, macro evolution, nonsense.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not biblical. But de-evolution, I could believe that, because if you think that's the whole story, basically, if you do kind of read enough into the mythologies, is that you start off with the first Nephilim, right? That you have probably a beautiful woman, you have an angel, they have offspring, they're probably super people, right? But then eventually God says, no more of that. And then so they continue to try to keep their divine bloodline going. And the more they do it, obviously all the recessive, just genetic dysfunction just continues to manifest.
Well, it's from inbreeding.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Incest. And eventually enough of that turns into deformities. So if you think about it like that, if a lot of people believe if Bigfoot is a physical creature, a lot of people in this community would say it's some kind of remnant of the Nephilim. So if that's true, right, this big kind of ape thing, well, if they continue to interbreed, well, then wouldn't you maybe get a gorilla, a silverback gorilla? What if you get like some of these weird? Oh, me and Brian did that. I'm not doing it today, but if you go down the rabbit hole of all the weird ape creatures, oh man,
It's on my
don't do
podcast.
it before you're ready to eat, because the things you will see it's nightmare fuel. I mean, like I said, it makes sense that, again, the octopus, weird, but kind of cool. I mean, to be honest, it's kind of cool. Some of those things, I mean, I might be going out on a limb, but I'm like, did God really create that? I mean, that's kind of hideous. Like so the point is, could
I
they
feel that way every time I look in the mirror, man.
yeah, right. Could that be a product of de-evolution, where like Nephilim eventually, again, the people hated them, right? Because they were cannibalistic and they were terrible. So what if they did get chased out of civilization? They go to the deepest, darkest jungles, and then they continue that process. And now there's very little resemblance to a humanoid. It's like it's a humanoid, but it's an animal now.
Yeah, they just inbred to the point where they became their own sort of subspecies. I mean, gorillas were only discovered 200 years ago. So the reality is, like, before that, they were known as a race of hairy, angry men in different parts, and they were
Wild
like,
men.
elusive.
Yeah,
and they
wild
didn't even
men.
know if they even were real. Some people debated if they were even real. And they were like a race of different people, they call them. So they thought of them as people. And I don't know this, you know, when we talk about gorillas, I think we talk about it on my channel, on Demon Racer's channel. We have a video breakdown of all the different gorillas, and or like the different things, like the orangutan in Africa. They actually have a creature called the tokonosh, or the tokonoshi, and it's actually this red, hairy demon that's covered in hair that kidnaps children. And in Africa, they actually believe that the tokonosh is the orangutan because he's red, he's orange. Like, that's what he looks like, which is the red-haired giants, right? That you hear about the stories of the Bible. They would kidnap children. We used to have a giant orangutan. We have skeletons of the gigantic orangutan. I forget the name of it. But it's like Giganticus, Pithecus, whatever. Anyways, and that giant orangutan, in their stories, they were so terrified. My buddy lived in Africa. He was telling me when they first had a zoo in his town in Africa, they put an orangutan in one of the exhibits, and all the people of Africa went there and saw the orangutan in the exhibit and freaked out.
They said nope.
They all freaked out, and he said they didn't like the gorillas, none of the other animals, but they got to the orangutan exhibit and they were terrified. He said you'd walk by and you'd see all these people from Africa petrified, and they were saying the white man is crazy. He put the boogeyman in a zoo. That's what they said. They said the white man put the boogeyman in a zoo because they were like, he is nuts, because they all thought the orangutan was a spiritual, mythical creature that kidnaps children.
Is the orangutan the one from the Jungle Book that sang?
Yeah.
I want to be like you.
Well,
Yep.
but isn't in the Jungle Book? Isn't the bad guys?
Yeah.
The orangutans.
Yeah.
Bam.
The giant orangutan.
Yeah, there you go. There you
Yeah,
go.
dude, that's pretty crazy.
They're the
So
bad
basically-
guys. And of course, if you really think about it, that whole
Nephilim.
weird movie series, The Planet of the Apes,
Oh yeah.
It was
They're
the
Nephilim.
orangutans there too.
it's kind of, yeah, they're the smartest ones. So it's kind of like is this an alternate universe where the Nephilim win?
Yeah, that's totally what it is. It's totally what it is. It's like the idea that like if the Nephilim survived, that's their dream ideology.
Right, because the Nephilim would continue to breed with each other and they would be genetically corrupted.
Yep.
But they would last. Oh, that's
Planet
really
of the
interesting.
Apes totally gives a whole nother vibe when you realize that they're Nephilim, the whole movie.
That's really interesting. I kind of got off track, and I don't think we got time to go back because we probably should play some videos. But anyways, hold that. Guys, just put that in the memory bank. The whole idea of like the spiritual kind of connection and what we can see. But again, we got to show some videos. I'm going to start with a very interesting one. At least I think it's interesting. You guys, check this out.
What is happening? How is that thing just sitting there?
Did I get duped by AI or was that real?
No, that was real, but that was it's an optical illusion because the plane is so big and it's so far away, and there is wind resistance when a plane is moving on a windy day. It does stall a little sometimes, but not to the point where it looks completely halted. It's just an illusion that does that. Pretty common illusion. I've seen it a
That
few
crap
times.
wasn't moving, Brian.
I know,
Dude, I don't know how you call that. It's like that's more than an illusion, dude.
Just saying, I've seen it.
I mean, they passed by the tree line.
If it would have
It
been
had
more
not-
like less than 5 seconds, maybe.
It had
but
not
dude.
moved at all.
Well, and I've seen them. I saw those before AI was released to us. I saw them. I've seen them with commercial
Yeah, it's real.
planes
it's not,
before.
Yeah, it's not.
But the one that I saw, they weren't moving in a car. They were standing still. They were on a sidewalk and they were filming it. And they filmed it for a couple of minutes. And there's no way, there's no optical illusion where that happens for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, that's the thing. So especially because again, they look like they're on the interstate, right? And they're going 60, 70 miles an hour.
Opposite direction.
The opposite direction.
Could be blue beans.
Maybe it's a demonic plane. It doesn't even exist.
No, you wouldn't have filmed it. You wouldn't be able to film it if it was demons.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, hologram would make sense. Hologram would make sense. I'm not saying it is, and I'm not saying I know why they would do that, but hologram would make sense. I remember in my discoveries, because I got to the little season backwards. I didn't realize it was in Revelation. I learned about all the anomalies with the timeline and the missing years and the J or the I before the years and like a lot of that weird stuff before I found out about that. And when I was doing a lot of my deep diving, like, I don't know, in the late 2000 teens, I remember watching a video about a guy talking about like the early stages of Project Bluebeam. And he was saying, he's like, they've been using it since the 70s. And he said that it's so robust and it's so high tech that you could be driving on the street and see and hear a car directly next to you and you would never know it wasn't real unless you got out and touched it.
I did projection mapping, so I had like a business where I was like projection mapping, on the side of the buildings and stuff and doing that. And so like I was playing with a whole lot of projection technology, and I've been, I kind of reverse engineer stuff and build things a lot, and I was like trying to think of ways to like make something like I did some cross projection where I put two projectors and like tried to shoot the beams across from each other to see if you could like make things appear or make some kind of response. And like you know, it's very difficult, and I've been like looking into things to try to think of ways of doing something like that. I don't know. Supposedly, there's that one where you see the whale in the classroom.
Yeah, I think that's
one.
I think that's all fake. I think they're not all seeing that. Like, we're seeing the AI, right?
Yeah, I think it's not. I don't think we're there. I don't think that. I mean, it would be cool if we were, but I don't think we quite are. You know what I do think we are there, though? I think we do know how to make anti-gravity. I think we do make,
well, especially because gravity's not actually a real thing.
I think we're totally there. I think that's one of the biggest secrets the government has, is that we have a way of making an anti-gravity chamber, and that's why you see those videos of all the people that are supposedly in space, looking like they're floating, but certain things don't respond the same. Like one guy actually in space holds a playing card and he goes, "You notice that things in outer space."
That's because they're in a studio, Brian.
Respond the way it is, and he drops the playing card, and the playing
Green
card
screen
drops, but the other thing floats.
Meanwhile, there's a cup sitting on the table with water in it.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, the water's not floating
exactly.
out like droplets and stuff.
Well, but the thing is, like, it's not wires. I think they can float.
The people are on
things.
wires. The people are definitely on wires.
So here, let me explain. So like there is the way they were able to float frogs with magnets back in the day. They were able to do this. We had this technology. We had massive electromagnets, and they were able to put frogs in the middle and float them in 0G with these massive magnets.
Well, that could make sense if they're in the like. What if they are in like the ether range?
Well,
and there is a lot of electromagnetic static in a certain part of the heavens, right?
Yeah, maybe. Well, I think it's more like they just have a way of making a chamber that could float certain thicker objects, but certain thinner things like hair doesn't float when the bigger objects float, because
right. But at the same time, like they're not taking their chamber up to like they're filming that somewhere.
They're filming it in a special space somewhere with an anti. I think that is something that we might potentially have, but I don't know about the projection technology. But that's definitely a possibility, because there's a lot of evidence to see that, and I could see why certain things in outer space videos don't respond normally. Like playing cards are really thin stuff like hair and
or rats run around the hull of a ship.
Those things don't float, but big stuff does. Like certain things do.
The space mice do not float out into
the space mice don't float
outer space.
I think a lot of things start to make sense let's just say that I'm right with my theory about the fact that all of this technology is recycled, and that it's always existed, and that it's given to every civilization, and that every civilization falls and they cover it all up. If I'm right about that, that would explain a lot of things, right? So then that would mean that technology did exist, does exist, has existed for quite some time. That would mean all of this technology has existed all of this time, our whole lives. If you think about it, like, how else would they bring the human population into understanding these things any other way than the way that they did it?
Right. Like they have to drip it out at a certain
They have to. Like, they literally have to. And, and I think it's highly possible that, so like, let me just explain. So like, what I'm saying is that in that theory, there was an admiral bird for the other civilizations, right? Our admiral bird was the one that discovered those continents, or at least that's how the story goes. He discovered, the land beyond Antarctica and just all of the different things.
So
and
there's reliving some of these characters, you're saying?
I'm saying that like I think that
Columbus is fake too. Then he's like a relived character too.
Well, right? what I'm saying is that like the fallen are rediscovered by every civilization, and a new agreement is made with every civilization, and they give the same technology to every civilization, and then they help them roll it out. They help them implement it. They help them roll it out, and we do what they tell us to do ritualistically. In exchange, we give them their humans, we give them their blood, we give them their sacrifices.
Nothing new under the sun situation where it's like the Watchers are back.
They give us the same technology. They gave us
bargain.
Yes, they give the current civilization the same technology they gave the last one that fell.
Dude,
and then
so
they
like Egyptians had iPhones. That's pretty
maybe
interesting.
maybe
Well, they could have
I
had.
mean,
I mean,
they had iPhones, so it was
That's
like
right.
the eye of
Exactly.
Ra.
See, that's why the eye of Horus is the big symbol, right?
but if you think about it like that, then
Get the eye pyramid.
Yeah.
there's like it's highly possible that a lot of that stuff was being used in the 70s and 80s, stuff that wouldn't make any sense to us. So the people that you're getting ready to record with next week, Joe, her dad was a chief of police. He was very connected with a handful of people in different 3-letter agencies. When he passed, one of them reached out to her and found out about his passing. They simply asked where the ceremony was going to be, like where they were going to spread his ashes or his burial, or whatever they were going to do with him. And I'm paraphrasing. She can tell you the story in person, but basically, she just said when and where, and it was on some mountain in California. They went out to this mountain, and you had to like hike to get to the place where they were at. To all these places, they went out to this mountain. And they went up there, they had their like ceremony or whatever. At one point in time, halfway through the ceremony, she looked over and dude was standing on the mountain like 20 feet away from them. He just showed up out of thin air. Just literally showed up out of thin air. And then like a few minutes went by and he was gone.
Like the devil.
When she first told me that, I was like, not that I didn't believe her, but like that's really hard to digest, you know?
Yeah, well,
And
I mean,
I'm
it is unbelievable, but I mean, like in a literal way. But I mean, you want to believe somebody who's telling you that.
But then I saw the animated series Invincible, and in Invincible, there's a lot of like government cooperation with these superheroes, and they do things that are like one of the scenes.
That's kind of like that show, The Boys, too, right? Like the corporations and the government's kind of working with the hybrid superheroes they created.
Yeah, but this one exposed it a lot. So like he walks into this room, one of the superheroes, Invincible, walks into this room with this government guy, and he can't see anything. It's just a white room. And he goes, "Hey, so-and-so, hit the switch." They hit a switch. He sees this giant room where they're operating on things. They're building machines and doing all. It was all happening before he saw it. It was just happening in a frequency he couldn't see.
Right. That's funny because that's exactly what I was trying to get to before about how that we were talking about the spiritual things. For lack of a better word for things that we use, we just say, this is supernatural. But nobody really knows what that means.
Yeah.
You know, when you say spiritual, I mean, it means of the spirit, right? But
Sure.
But it's really hard for us to quantify.
It's really just beyond our comprehension.
Right. Yeah. So I was trying to, that's what I wanted to kind of get into. And I guess now that you brought it up, is like the idea that what if there are things, again, like you think about, so you have this low vibrational frequency, and that is your Stranger Things upside down, right? And so when people astral project, you have way more access to the low vibe, right? So they only experience threats, demonic possession, demons, just like nefarious creatures. But we live on this to say for like, we're like middle earth, right? Like we're in the middle frequency, but then there's this higher vibrational frequency where you would get heavenly dreams, maybe prophecy. You could maybe, if possible, you could interact.
It is weird that
with,
they call it middle earth.
Right. You know, well, I mean, in the Lord of the Rings, it's like literally in the middle of the map, but that's what I used to think. It would be like you have the low demonic plane, and then you have
a lot of truth in those Lord of the Rings movies.
But yeah, but what if that kind of is kind of the thing that like there's layers to the frequencies that we're at, and that's the battle we cannot see, is like the high vibrational frequency, the battle against the low. And I think it's like a tug of, it's kind of like a tug of war, like a spiritual tug of war.
I do think there's a technological aspect to it too, though, just because like we are literally limited. We've talked about it before. We can only see a half of 1% of the visible light spectrum. So like, I think there are ways to be able to access those other light spectrums and see those other light spectrums. And I fully believe our government understands that. Maybe not all of it, but I think they understand it. But the reason I brought that up was because in that show, in that cartoon animated series, whatever you want to call it, the main dude, the main 3-letter agency government dude, he has a technology that allows him to transport himself to different places all over the world. And in an instant he shows up there and he's physically there. And in an instant he's back to where he was. And they never explain what it is, they never explain how he has it, but like the other things that they show go hand in hand with things that I've like researched and looked into, and I'm like, dude, what the heck?
Well, maybe it's kind of like a situation where that if you're on a different kind of frequency, like you're not limited by the things that we're limited by. You know what I mean? Like, does that make sense?
No,
like
totally.
that if we face all this air resistance and things like that, you know, like whatever. I mean, the point is that if you get to this different frequency, like there's really no limits to how fast you can go. Like, or what, you know what I mean? Like time is works differently on the different frequency ranges.
What you were saying, Aaron, like the idea that there is technology that's being slowly released, like I'm somewhere in between. Like, I kind of agree. Like, that's an interesting concept that maybe it was already there and they've like re-released it. That's a very fascinating concept to think about. Because the reason why I say there is certain technologies that we do have is like the things like gravity. Anti-gravity was actually produced. We produced anti-gravity. You guys probably never even heard of it. The fact that we floated frogs. You can look up the videos of us floating frogs. That was produced in like I think the 60s or 70s. There was anti-gravity devices that we created that existed. And then that project got halted and stopped and disappeared. And nobody even knows about it. And so we see the progression of anti-gravity or anti-gravitational device. And then all of a sudden, boom, it disappears. And you're like, wait a second, why did we just stop pursuing something like that? And so it's like, you don't see the progression of, you know, certain technologies and they stop. So that's why I say certain technologies, when they're progressing, and then they disappear, then I'm like, okay, we probably figured something out. You know what I'm saying? So like, but like the projection thing, like we can't stop light at a certain point. Nobody's been able to figure that one out. So like, you know, seeing projection mapping technology, I've never seen anything in that direction of progression, and then it just stopped. Like we straight was able to float frogs. Like we straight were able to float things. So we just had to make it bigger in order for it. And like, it's almost like the Large Hadron Collider could be just a way of floating big things. Honestly, and in the middle of that huge ring, there's probably some power coupler that could just be an anti-gravity device.
Yeah, like the quantum realm might be just a different frequency realm where,
yeah, that
you
too.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
but
it's a different, quote unquote, it's a different dimension. Again, that's another kind of a buzzword. We really don't understand what a different dimension is because we only live in this one.
So for me, it's like, if you look at the timeline of when, was it Eisenhower that allegedly made the deal with the aliens?
Yeah.
So if you look at the timeline, though, of all of that, it all makes sense. You look at the timeline of that, you look at the timeline of Admiral Byrd, you look at the timeline of NASA beginning, you look at the timeline of, like, there's way too many things that line up with the unveiling of space, the unveiling of NASA, the unveiling of space exploration, the unveiling of all these different technologies and all of these different things. Like, at one point, it all started, like, it all came to a head, and they all started to be released at the same exact time. And they would have all been
when Israel
after
started.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
There's a lot to consider. If you believe the Book of Enoch and you believe that the fallen angels came here with all the secrets of the earth, all of them, you're telling me that they just right now got to a point where we had some of these technologies?
Oh, no, they were 100% revealing certain technologies.
They had them
times,
immediately.
But I don't think all of it.
Well, you think about it, I always said that you could have very advanced technology, but it's not like the kind we have. It could, like, it gets you to the same place. But
I think we just got the latest
iteration. It's not necessarily
iteration.
like an iPhone.
Yeah.
It's something different. Like, again, it's a mirror. It's a magic mirror. Either way, it's like you can do all the same things with it, just in the same way that you could have you could fly in a plane or you could go on an airship. I mean, does it really mean?
Or a magic carpet.
Right, or a magic carpet. The point is, like, you're still using things that seem like magic to you because if you don't know how they're done, if you don't know the trick, then it's magic. And if you do, it's science.
And us lowly humans are only given the bare necessities to bring it back to the Jungle Book.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like if Apple's technology, if we got a world war and the Apple facility blew up, we wouldn't have iPhones for another probably at least 100 years. You know what I mean? Like we probably.
Well, you know what? I can't remember. I want to say I've seen a video. I mean, I don't know if it was a fake video, but it was like they were showing like one of these microscopes, kind of zooming into. Fake. Is that fake?
Yeah.
You're like you're seeing,
but it is pretty interesting.
But I mean, the idea of like how small the technology is in the devices, where it does seem inhuman.
Yeah, microchips are totally technology given to us by fallen angels. Even the discovery of it is just so preposterous. Like how they came up to this ideology for how to develop it. Like, dude, there's no way. Like we didn't create microchips. Microchips were that technology was given to us by something or fallen angels. You know, and so it's like I think they gave certain people certain technology, just like the Aztecs had their perfect calendar and they had their terra preta, their perfect gardening system, but they didn't have other stuff, right? So it was like the angels that sacrificed to the gods, they did all those human sacrifices there, that they got some technology. And then other people in other areas figured out, hey, if you kill a bunch of humans and you give them to the gods, you get other technology. Like right now, cigarettes, by the way, big tobacco, I don't know if you know this, Big Tobacco owns Kraft. They own all the systems. But guess who owns Big Tobacco?
The Jews.
You guessed it. The people with the little hat. They own the Big Tobacco companies.
That was a lucky guess.
Yep. And so, you know, that's the thing. They own the Big Tobacco companies, and they're doing all the ritual sacrifices, and they're getting all the technology.
But here's this one idea. Something they do show you in the movies, where, again, that Aaron could be right, that this technology is old. It's kind of like you think about on all these movies where an alien ship has crashed, right? And then they reverse engineer this technology. What if, like in the little season, that eventually men found things that were older, and then they, like, you know, kind of like the idea of Tesla doing it. You know, you go into, Aaron and I talked about that first Transformers movie where in the Arctic Circle or whatever, they find Megatron, and then they start reverse engineering. And of course, Metatron, it's like he's like the angel of death. And then they find some cube, the Allspark, and this is where all the technology goes from.
It's always a cube.
Well, yeah, it's like the Saturn cube type deal, but it's like this
in Star Trek. It's the Borg cube ship. It's like, dude, it's always
the
a cube
on
like
the little hats' heads. But no, yeah. So you think about that.
Mm-hmm.
What if
that's New
what if
Jerusalem.
it is something like that, and TV is going to tell us it's aliens, right? Because the Transformers are aliens, right? Even though they're robots. But literally, like the main bad guy is named after an angel in a Kabbalistic book.
They got to the Hoover Dam specifically. Like, come on, of all places they could have been hiding the Allspark and Megatron, it's at the Hoover Dam.
Why not like Area 51 or something like that? Why
Exactly.
Why would it be under a hydroelectric dam?
Exactly. And then in Witwicky is the kid's name, Shia LaBeouf, and his great grandfather. Get this. While exploring the Arctic Circle, he discovered Megatron. And so it kind of starts with like a lot of the stuff that we would call conspiracy, and he was frozen. They ended up finding him and taking him to the Hoover Dam and keeping him at the Hoover Dam and the Allspark at the Hoover Dam, and they explain it. They say, they give the timeline, they show that the way that it's in there, and I just got this weird feeling as I was watching it that, like, I think that there's so much truth to that whole story, because as they're walking him in to show him where the Allspark is, they show the giant black cube. It's got the hieroglyphics all over it. It's giant. And they ultimately say that President Hoover wanted to build the dam around the Allspark with 40-yard thick cement walls to keep the signal from being able to be detected from the outside, or what they call outer space. So just that whole story, that's such a specific storyline.
Okay, so it's a movie about a black cube and Megatron, and then when you think about it, like the angels are sitting on black cubes, and also Metatron is like basically the leader of the angels. Metatron has a cube, and it's a cube that's based on cosmic geometry in order to create things. This is not coincidental that this stuff connects so easily. What if it's not necessarily that they are going directly to them now, but they did find some of the old stuff, and then they're trying to summon them after, it's taken them longer because they don't have direct access like they used to.
That's an interesting idea. Yeah, I could see that too.
If you were the fallen angels and you came down to Earth and you just got your butts handed to you by Michael and the other angels, and okay, so what's the first thing you're doing? Like, the first thing you're doing is plotting your revenge. You're figuring out how you can plot your revenge. Like, how do we get back up there?
What is
do we do?
What is that one Transformers movie? Isn't it called like Revenge of the Fallen?
Exactly.
Yeah, it is.
So how do we get back up there? What do we do? So I think personally, if you've ever seen a quantum computer, if you've ever seen they are not normal. They are not human.
No.
They are otherworldly. Like, there's no doubt that it's fallen tech. So what I think that in order to figure out how they could defeat God, what they realized they had to do is they had to run some simulations, and they had to run as many as they could at one time, just like in the Avengers
Endgame.
And they had to figure out what the possible solutions were. So I think that they had to make a bunch of quantum computers. But in order to do that, they had to get people to go all over the world and excavate, get the metals, because they need physical things to.
They need.
So that's why
they need vibranium and adamantium.
They need all kinds of stuff to make these quantum computers. And so I think that what they did was they made a crap ton of quantum computers to run a bunch of different simulations to figure out how they could defeat God. And there's a possibility that we're all in one of those.
Dude, you are trying so hard to tempt me to just go into all the comic book stuff.
It wouldn't change the story of Jesus. It wouldn't change our salvation. It wouldn't change any of that. But it would just be, we are one of those simulations of the millions or billions. And that would also explain the parallel universe stuff, parallel
the multiverse of
realities.
madness.
Correct. It would explain all of that.
I talked about this a long time ago about how, that it is interesting. So in Infinity War, you have Thanos, of course, is the God character. He says, I am, and all that stuff. And his ship's called the Sanctuary. His goal is to eventually snap his fingers, make half the people disappear, and then he's going to go to a garden to rest. I mean, if that's not the God character, I don't know what else. Then again, he's fighting against the Thunder God. But yeah, that's really interesting. So Doctor Strange is basically Dr. Satan. He's this clearly morally ambiguous character who uses dark arts when it's necessary, and he's very prideful and arrogant. If Thor's not the devil, it's Dr. Satan, Dr. Strange.
Yeah, it's all of them.
So he's the one who's using the time stone, and he's looking into all the possibilities of all the 10 million to 1, whatever. He found one chance that they could somehow win. In Endgame, they have to go to the quantum realm. So through the quantum realm, they can manipulate time, and they make a very big emphasis on the fact that movies like The Terminator and Back to the Future, that's not how time works. Times are like threads. Even as we were talking about in like the Blood of Zeus and stuff like that, we have the threads of fate. It's kind of like
in the Loki TV series.
Yeah, kind of these very similar things. So when you change something, they make a point to say that if one of us went back in time right now and changed something from the past, like, our consciousness here has not changed. So you would just look around and say, what the heck happened to this place? So like, that's the idea. I believe that what they're showing you through that's the Mandela effect. Where you're like, know this was like, I know the sky used to be blue in the daytime.
Right.
But for some reason it's orange in this universe.
And if my theory is correct, then all of those quantum computers are tied to each other. And the reason why the story of salvation and Jesus and all of that stuff is still real, and our relationship with the Holy Spirit is real, all of that stuff is real, is because if it is all being ran through a simulation, the only way to get the actual true result of how to defeat God is if they use the same rules of reality. The same exact rules. All of them. They have to abide by all of the rules.
Okay, so how are we in another? So you think we're in another simulation? How are we souls then? How are we have spirit? Did God create our spirits?
I'm not saying we are, and I'm not saying I think we are. I'm not 100% on this.
Yeah.
This is just a theory. To answer your question, I don't know. I don't know how all of that stuff works. I
Okay,
really
so
don't. But like, let me give you an idea, and let me give you an example. The double slit experiment is one of those things where it's like it changes when it's perceived.
Yeah.
Right?
we're
And
in a
so
simulation for sure. I just think that's a God simulation.
Well, right,
But
but yeah,
that's
but but I go back again. I go back to another comic book reference again. So, you have Thor talking to his girlfriend. He's saying that you call it science, your ancestors called it magic, but where I come from, they're one and the same. So that's what I've always said is like, so where are they messing around with the quantum realm? They're doing that at CERN. CERN, the place where they got the Shiva statue, the one that's on the site where there was a temple to Apollyon. They're doing like ritual weird stuff on Dark Matter Day, which just happens to fall on Halloween. What the heck are they doing at CERN?
Dark Matter
What
Day.
if again, I always bring up that movie, The Prestige, is about how that eventually Hugh Jackman gains access through Nikolai Tesla, real magic, like straight up sorcery. And then eventually when he shows it to the guy who owns the theater, that guy's like, it's been so long since I saw real magic. And he tells Hugh Jackman to dumb it down, make it look like a trick because he knows it's actually real magic. It's real sorcery. So what if the idea is that we are trying to explain some, again, like we were talking about earlier about frequencies and like the vibrational plane and wherever we're at. That's a way for our brains to maybe understand what we're even talking about, just like to even like try to go there. God made a material universe and it's a spirit made all the matter that we have, but maybe there is a magical component to it. I mean, I guess it's really hard to explain, and maybe the people that are using the technology, they don't understand it either.
Brian's theory and mine would be the same when you consider the fact that God is sovereign. So if what I'm saying is true, they wouldn't be allowed to do it if they weren't given permission. And it wouldn't change the outcomes of real souls, real people choosing him. And so I want to take this theory to the next level on top of that and blow your guys' minds with this thought experiment. And that is that if what I'm saying is true, and we know that time is not the same for God, right? Like he's outside of time. So he knows what's going to happen. He knows who's going to choose him. He knows what's going to take place. What if we are the angels? The 66% that stayed in heaven.
I mean, I do believe that it's interesting, even the way that it's described in, you have a third of the angels fall and like a third of like Jerusalem saved at the end, where it's like, it's kind of like that. It says in Daniel 12 that the wise are going to shine like the stars. I mean, Jesus said in the resurrection, we'll be like angels in heaven. We won't need to marry. I literally do believe that. I think that's biblical, that we'll be like the angels. And I think that God is replacing
heavenly bodies.
He's replacing the angels who fell with us.
So it's like, if you look at time like that, like what if we got to heaven, right? What if we, like, to be absent from the body is present with the Lord? Like, what if we get there and we see that like we were the ones that like defeated them and sent them down to earth the whole time? But we had to understand how we got there. And so we're going through all of this and understanding why we made the choice that we made.
That's
it's just a theory.
That's deep. I mean, that's deep. It's hard to really quantify that. No, but we better probably get to some videos here soon. But this one thought though, it is interesting. Again, if you go back to the Infinity War Endgame thing, it's like I always pictured it like that. The end of Infinity War is kind of like the end of like Armageddon. Jesus wins. It's over. And so when the next movie starts, it is over. And they've accepted defeat. But then eventually there's this idea is like that they're going to literally try to change the past and do all these other things. It's the end game. So I thought like that is kind of interesting ideas. Like, is that like the little season? It's already over. Like, like Jesus has already won. So now it's like, what are they going to do? And it's like, if the devil could manipulate time, change timelines, stretch things out, hide things.
Of course he would.
Yeah, would he do it? I mean, if God would let him.
It says in the Bible that he seeks to change times.
Yeah, right.
You
So
know,
I mean,
so
I guess that's the point. It's like it's a deep idea. It's I mean, I guess in the end game, it's whatever. I mean, again, the devil would do whatever he could do. I guess the only question is, would God allow him to do what he's doing right now?
I think the beautiful thing about all of these theories is that they do not minimize the authority of and the power of Jesus Christ.
No,
They
no.
do
I mean,
not
it
remove
actually,
him from the throne. If anything, it speaks to his power.
yeah,
and
it
speaks to his
elevates
authority.
him that he gives the devil so much of a leash to
Well,
do what he
totally.
wants. Because yeah, it's like that if he had to constrain him,
He knows he's
more-
going to hang himself with it no matter what.
Right. He's already, again, the victory's already guaranteed. Okay, let's get some videos. I'll give you guys an option. Do you guys want to go demons, bro, or do you guys want to do something regarding outer space?
outer space.
Have you guys heard of the 3-Eye Atlas?
Grab your friends, grab a date, grab your tinfoil hats, because an alien spaceship is gonna be in our skies come end of November, beginning December. Yes, it's the infamous 3-Eye Atlas, and it just seems like the closer it gets, the more unexplainable it becomes. You know, the interstellar object making its way towards us that professors and media outlets are all insisting might be alien technology? Well, a literal YouTuber has taken probably the clearest photo of the object yet, somehow better than anything NASA has shown us so far. And let me tell you, this thing does not look like a comet. So sometime in the beginning of October, 3-Eye Atlas has officially been hidden from view for us here on Earth as it passes behind the sun, only to emerge around the end of November, and be at its most visible point from Earth mid-December at its closest approach to our planet. But right before it went behind the sun, it passed by Mars, which NASA has an active satellite orbiting, the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, MRO. And NASA previously mentioned it's reallocating a bunch of its space telescopes and satellites to observe 3-Eye Atlas as it passes by, of which included MRO. But just recently, they put up a notice on their site saying, due to the lapse in federal government funding, NASA is not updating this website. Conveniently, just right before the expected Mars flyby of 3-Eye Atlas. Does this mean they're not going to be taking a photo of it anymore? Whatever this means, it's just incredibly questionable timing. And every photo NASA has released of it so far has just been a blurry, pixelated blob that anyone can dismiss as just a comet, which it might be. But somehow, amateur astronomers are taking better pics of it from here on Earth than the biggest space agency in the world. YouTuber Dobsonian Power used his backyard telescope to take this photo of 3-Eye Atlas, which is honestly pretty wild if you ask me. I mean, the shot is fairly blurry too, but we can clearly make out a shape that is quite angular, maybe even somewhat, I don't know, triangle shaped. And digitally enhanced, this sure doesn't look like no comet to me. Comets are supposed to be fairly round and maybe lumpy, but this has like, I don't know, sharp edges and long protrusions coming out of it. Here it is, reconstructed with AI. And I know this is AI, it's far from accurate, but damn. And why is this still more clear than anything NASA has given us with their billion-dollar telescopes so far? Because the news coming out about this comet is just non-stop. Like, there's a new update every single day, with alleged leaks from European astronomers showing internal data that is not congruent with that of a comet, who also admitted the government is intentionally covering up the truth of 3-Eye Atlas, albeit this was an anonymous post on a certain website that shall not be named. Another leaked NASA memo allegedly claims its acceleration is not consistent with Newtonian predictions, meaning it's speeding up and slowing down on its own, and that its surface appears to be made of a highly reflective composite material. Professor Avi Loeb also revealed the object is glowing from the front rather than from behind, as is expected from a comet, and also seems that it might be emanating its own light, which led some, including him, to suggest that it may be a nuclear-powered craft. Now, more recent news came out that 3-Eye Atlas is massive, at least 33 billion tons, which is much bigger than we previously thought. And according to scientists, naturally occurring objects in interstellar space are just not supposed to be this big. Mass spectroscopy analysis reveal it's also rich in nickel and poor in iron, which is more like a manufactured alloy than it is a natural rock. Its trajectory is almost impossible to have occurred naturally, within 5 degrees of our solar system's orbital plane and passing by Mars, Venus, and Jupiter along its path, going directly behind the sun from Earth at its closest approach to the sun, which Professor Loeb stated the odds of this trajectory happening at random are like 1 in 20,000. 3-Eye Atlas will emerge back into view for us on Earth sometime mid to end November, and then be at its most visible by Earth-based telescopes during its closest approach to us here on Earth in the beginning to mid-December. You are not going to be able to see it with the naked eye, and honestly, you're probably going to need a high-powered professional telescope to look at it yourself. But hey, if it does turn out to be artificial, it'll be pretty wild knowing an alien craft is drifting right above our heads at the end of this year. That is, if it doesn't reroute its path towards Earth when it's hidden behind the sun to invade our planet. Yeah, let's hope not.
Can I change my answer? Can I choose it's demons, bro?
I know. I was just thinking like the whole time. I'm like,
So painful to watch.
all this is just such nonsense. Of course, the funniest
So
part, the
stupid.
funniest part about that video was, besides the fact that everything else was stupid about it, was that it was 33 billion tons. Yeah, I'm gonna guess I was about I was gonna guess 666.6 billion tons, but yeah, 33 billion tons sounds about right.
Dude, outer space stuff like that is just so silly to me. It's so obnoxious. It's so ridiculous to me that people believe that they can tell all of that stuff about something that's millions and tens of millions of light years away from us, allegedly. But meanwhile, Bobby's next door beating his wife and abusing kids, and they can't find him.
Right. It's like, but Aaron, it's not reacting according to Newtonian physics or whatever.
Well, that's true. That's true.
It's
You
not
got me
acting like
there.
Newtonian theory. That
You
it
got me
should.
there. You got me there. I've got nothing to say.
I mean,
to
it
that.
is like
it must be right.
Like this is pseudoscience right here. And I got to be honest.
It's
I
comedy.
joked when I was watching that. I said, "Oh, this is the clearest picture that we've got of it." It's like it literally looks like a fly landed on this guy's telescope.
Looks like a thigh mole, dude.
And they're like, and then they show a picture of, so AI recreates it, and I thought it was supposed to be reflective and glowing looking. It was like just some big old hunk of crap up there. It looked like
Dude, that just felt like I just listened to some
got dumber listening to that.
like retarded kid's little explanation for, I don't know, nonsense. I don't know why I even listened to that.
You know, it's funny. That's exactly why I resisted. I saw a couple of people talking about it, and I got to be honest, I didn't listen to that guy's whole video. I normally like his stuff, and he probably explained it as well as it could be explained. But I guess the thing is
It's just a bunch of hypotheses. It's like what if,
Oh,
and it's just all
the
nonsense.
orbital
dude. What if
satellite-
you'll never even know that even existed.
Yeah, the orbital satellite around Mars stopped working for some reason. I guess it's because of the government shutdown.
Yeah, we can't see it because of the government shutdown. That's what NASA said on their site.
Yeah,
But it's
you guys are
mostly
missing
nickel. But it's mostly nickel and cadmium or whatever.
You
it
guys
is.
better pressure your government to turn on the government again, okay? Because you guys are missing out on space rocks that you guys could be looking at. Just so you know, like
There were other images of it that made it look like a dragon. Like they were sharing satellite imagery of it, and it looked like a dragon. Like it had like spikes and stuff on its back. It looked crazy.
It's time to break out
Really?
the Sora app and
who was
and see
saying
what
that?
If you look it up on TikTok, there's a bunch of images that are allegedly official NASA released images, and it literally looks like a long, like curvy dragon.
You know what?
They hit the earth.
Actually, I've got a nice transition to that. Before we go in any further, just I thought this was a pretty interesting video. There's the idea that maybe some of the craters on the Earth could have come from fallen watchers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Here. Yeah, that's an explosion right there. That's a fallen angel hit the earth right there, I think.
This is probably AI, but maybe not.
No,
I
there's
think
a
that's
crater
real.
similar to that here in Arizona. It's called Sunset Crater.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's real.
Is it that big?
Yeah, some of them are.
It's maybe half that, but it's massive.
There's 200 fallen angels.
That one was a big boy. Whatever
That
that
was
one was a big boy.
That was
That was
big.
Azazel. That was Azazel's crater.
that was the head
You know,
honcho.
I don't really find the idea that angels literally fell like Megatron did to Earth like that. I don't know. I don't know that they made craters like that. I think that the craters
why
to
not?
me might have been, again, like the fountains of the deep bursting forth or something. Because even if they, I don't know. I guess I'm open to the possibility that creators could relate to angels who fell, but
let me tell you why.
I mean, it says Lucifer fell from like lightning from heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, like lightning.
That would look like a comet.
Like boom.
Yeah. Oh, no,
we
definitely.
see that
I mean, he did, but I don't know that he left a massive crater as big as a mountain.
Why not? Like, and here's the other thing. Look, bro. So like this.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying he couldn't have. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You're not sold on it.
I don't know.
You're not sold. Okay. So in this reality, spirits have to have a physical thing, an okatarium, a holding cell, a body, a vessel. Okay. Spirits have to be tethered to vessels to be in this reality. So like when I deal with demons, they'll tether themselves to objects. Like, bro, I've smashed objects and they've like sizzed and like shot sparks out, and like weird stuff has happened when we've broken things that are like not, or they've exploded in flame, or like, dude, we try to burn.
That sounds like all the ways that the like vampires die. You ever seen those movies where like they go out differently each way?
Yes,
I think was it like the Lost? Isn't that like in the Lost Boys? That some of them,
bro,
some of them explode, some go catch fire.
It's very real. It's very real. I'm not going to lie with you, bro. I've seen this stuff when we smash items that have demons infused in them. Like, there is weird stuff that happens. And like one, even the demon, there's one, we tried to burn a book and it wouldn't burn. And it was like some occult thing this person had written spells in. It would not burn. And then like there was one we burned and it turned into rainbows. The fire just turned into rainbows. It was nuts. And so like I've seen so many different crazy things about how demons tether to objects and they have weird physical reactions. So I think when the fallen angels came into this reality, since they weren't born of men, they had to come into this reality in a vessel. And I think the vessel was a hunk of metal.
I agree with that.
They had to come in with the hunk of metal, and they tethered their spirit to that hunk of metal.
They're like Transformers. You're saying that they're Transformers. That's the
they tethered their spirit to that hunk of metal that went like a meteor, came into the earth, it did that big old explosion, and the spirit was in that hunk of metal. And here's what happened: the person went over to that hunk of metal and touched it, and the first person that touched that hunk of metal, the spirit inside that metal went into the man. Because that's how demons move. They move by you touching the demonic objects. I've seen this several times in person. Like you touch a demonized object, a demon will go into a person. It really goes. They move off of touch.
You've got me halfway there. I can maybe buy that because I do think it's interesting that biblical cosmology, right? So you have stars, right? Stars are supposedly gas with iron cores. Okay, just think about what that actually is. So you have, like, what's gas? Is gas not a spirit? Is it like a vapor? Yeah. It's kind of like a vapor, right? So interesting. I want to say that. Right. So that you have. I want to say that there is this mythology in ancient Egypt where iron came from the sky and then they shaped a knife out of it. And I want to say it might have been King Tut's knife.
Yes, they did that. They did do that.
Even think about, so Jesus is said to have a rod of iron, and
he rules with a rod of iron.
There's some kind of heavenly component where like that was not a normal ore from the earth, like it's something from heaven. But I thought was really interesting is that
demons hate iron. I will tell you this, not just me. Jerry Marzinski has told me this, that when he deals with schizophrenic people that have demons, bro, they all hate iron. And I'm like, are you serious?
What about lead? What about lead?
I don't know. We haven't tested.
I was just asking about lead is because one of the weirder mythologies about Superman is, for one, the green rock from his planet, like kind of like you think about like the God's throne, the Aurora Borealis, colors it's green. This green rock is his kryptonite, right? It's like it kills him. But also, why of all things can he see through lead? And then you get into like the idea that like the royal family gets buried in lead coffins and stuff like that.
That's pretty weird.
Something about that. Well, but anyways, going back to what I was going to say.
Maybe lead doesn't allow the spiritual realm to permeate through it in some capacity. Maybe it's a spiritual hinderer.
Yeah, but
that's
why
iron?
But they put lead
why
paint,
lead?
guys.
And like, so what is up with lead and iron? And also silver bullets. Silver bullets.
Like, wait. There's a reason for all this. And they put lead paint and they stopped doing the lead paint. But guess what? Wi-Fi signals don't go through lead paint. So Wi-Fi
Exactly.
could be spiritual, just like the spiritual waves that go through stuff. And so lead does inhibit some spiritual component. Maybe that's why they say that about lead.
Okay, so but you also have, I want to say silver hurts vampires, right?
There's a reason for that. There's a reason
silver
for that.
bullets kills werewolves.
Okay, there's a total reason for it. In fact, silver is antimicrobial, antibacterial, and antifungal. And so I actually worked for a company that was engineering, and I was creating the designs and marketing stuff for a silver. They were making silver cloth and silver Band-Aids because they would stop MRSA and they would stop flesh-eating diseases. And so back in the day...
That's why colloidal silver kills so many things.
Yeah, back in the day, they would put silver coins on people's eyes and they would rot, but their eyeballs would stay unrotten. And it was almost like, you've heard about the idea of putting the silver coin on the people's eyes. It was almost like
you got to
keep
pay
their eye...
with Charon, the fairy boatman, to hell.
Yeah, because it would keep their eyes more alive. So it was almost like if their eyes could stay, undissolved, maybe they'd be able to see into the spiritual realm better or something. I mean, there's all these theories, but they realized that if you put silver coins on people that had flesh-eating diseases and bacteria, the silver would stop the bacteria and the infection. And so they realized silver was somehow magical because it was antimicrobial, because it leaches. It actually leaches off these particles, these silver ions that basically destroy and kill any microbacteria.
Okay. Oh, going back to what I was going to say, though. So again, the stars, right? So the stars are made of what? Hydrogen, helium with iron cores, right? So that's what they say our sun's made of. What's really interesting is that, you hear about these certain planets that are the gas giants. No jokes, Aaron. You have the gas giants. And you know what they're made out of? They're made of hydrogen, helium, and they have an iron core.
Helios.
Well,
Helium.
right. Yeah, but just think about that, though, is that what's kind of interesting is that we're told that we're only seeing the reflections of them at night, even though they're literally made of the same stuff that the sun's made out of. But I just think that's kind of interesting is like, but what they're made out of, this is what the science says. Is this true? I don't know. But it is interesting that they're made of gas and they have iron cores. Is there something to like the idea of angels or stars? These gas giant planets are literally made of the same thing stars are made out of. They've got demonic names, like they're named after fallen angels, false gods. Right, like Jupiter. That's what that's what the planet Jupiter is supposedly made out of. What if it is? Yeah, what if what if one of those things fell to Earth? Like the stars fall, like, so, the wandering stars, if one fell and hit. Okay, well, now you're talking about, maybe they could, they could actually make a impact crater like that.
So think of this too. Like the iron thing is super interesting because it says Jesus rules with an iron rod.
And Iron Man is the Antichrist?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting because it's like Jesus rules with the iron rod, and iron, it's like they don't like. It's like iron is somehow a reminder, I think, of their imprisonment. Is my theory why he rules with an iron rod, because they came in on they came in iron, maybe they came in, they taught men metallurgy, right? And then that's why they put iron gates around cemeteries to keep the demons and the spirits in. Like, this is where the origin of this stuff came from. And like the iron, like I'm saying, like the schizophrenic people don't like iron. It like freaks them out. Anybody
There's
that's
literally
demon
iron
possessed
in
and
our
dealing
blood.
with this. Say what?
Oh, there's iron in our
There's
blood.
literally iron in our blood.
Yeah, that's what I thought of too. I thought like maybe they don't like iron because it reminds them of the blood of Christ. And it was like, that was another
maybe they
thought that I had.
but what if they want iron though from the blood?
No, I don't know, man.
They want blood.
I don't know. It's something to do with iron is a reminder of Jesus and Jesus ruling them. And I think maybe there's blood, maybe there's iron. Maybe they were chained in iron. Maybe that was like some kind of thing that like when they were chained away for the 1,000 years, and that's why when he comes back, he rules with an iron rod. It's like maybe that was somehow that their deception was in that.
Well, you also have, so in the prophecy in Psalm 2 is that God's son is going to get the rod of iron. and he's going to smash the nations like pottery. So if you think about it, what are pots made out of? They're made of clay. So I think I definitely think that there's clearly a divine attribute to iron, because it's a status symbol of a heavenly being that has a rod of iron. So that again, that Jesus is elevated above the angels, but that it's likely that they have some kind of component to that. All right, now let's continue to get some videos. Let's just do a palate cleanser real quick. I found an interesting Sora video.
Refs lined them up. Bob Ross, as calm as a mountain stream.
Helen Keller loading that right hand. She whipped right past him. She missed completely.
Down goes Keller.
That's the floor, and that's got to be it.
Ladies and gentlemen, by way of opponent's inability to continue.
Let's do one more. Let's do one more Sora video.
Stephen Hawking's paradox coming in hot. Drum up to speed, makes contact.
Sparks everywhere. Drive forward, full power.
Grindstone trying to.
Oh, did you guys ever used to watch BattleBots?
Yeah, I watched it.
Oh, yeah.
That show would have been so much better if it would have been like that, though.
If Stephen Hawking's life would have been on the line.
Oh, we shouldn't laugh, but you know what? We did play the video that, I think that the Stephen Hawking thing was pretty much just a character.
I saw the Stephen Hawking, Tony Hawk,
AI
video too. It was pretty terrible. It was like rated E for Epstein because he's on the Epstein list.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I think I watched him going down the half pipe about. I don't know. It was like one of those videos. Like I was surprised that TikTok was 2 hours long because I just kept on watching it. You got to go, Brian, or you want to watch? You have enough time for some more videos?
One more. I'm gonna do one more.
Oh, here's a good one. Brian is gonna be sucked in to talk more.
People take ketamine and they all have the same vision.
When they do this drug, they all get the same idea, which is that the machines are coming together, they're evolving to eventually take over, and that we are hanging ourselves with the rope we're currently building by building this.
It's a little weird that different people from different places, different countries, different life experiences would take a drug and have the same kind of vision.
Totally.
That can't be organic.
And the fact that people are taking these drugs and they're very powerful and they work in tech and they are getting the same ideas, the same fears. They think that in some cases they're talking to the same entities.
Like ancient sacred art has the same images.
Right.
Created on different continents at different periods. They couldn't have had contact with each other, so why are they drawing the same Birdman or the same purse? Because they're seeing the same visions, right, which suggests that those visions are real.
Oh boy, I saw his post. I saw his post on that, and now I have to watch it. I have to watch the whole thing. You guys heard about the experiment where that one dude was taking mushrooms and then they were shooting a laser beam into the wall, and everyone was seeing code.
I thought it was DMT.
Yeah, DMT. It was DMT. You're right.
I think the funny part of that whole thing is step one, take drugs.
Yeah, step one, take drugs.
If you guys want to see the code on the wall, here are the steps.
We're in the
step
spirit
one,
realm, bro.
Take some DMT.
But here's the thing.
Okay, you already lost me.
Yeah, I know. But he wasn't telling the
people. It's all
people
ones and zeros, man.
but here's the thing. He wasn't telling any of them what they were going to see. He just gave them the DMT and said, let me show you an experiment. What do you see?
It's still fascinating.
Everyone was saying they saw the same thing. When they saw the laser, they said they saw what looked like Hebrew text or ones or code. They said it looked like ones and zeros.
Yeah. No, a lot of people have said that, and a lot of people that don't know each other, and a lot of people that like don't have that knowledge beforehand. I watched a video of a few people that didn't have any of that knowledge beforehand. Yeah. And then they did that, and they're like, what do you see? And they all described the exact same thing. Like they were literally seeing like Matrix code in the laser.
Yeah, it's super interesting. It is very, I mean, I could give an explanation for why it's happening like that. It could just be like your eye's perception is like being slowed down and you're seeing it at a certain frame rate that's not statically normal and it's being perceived in this way. But
exactly what we were talking about in the beginning with the veil lifting and them seeing something else entirely that's not our reality, but that's what they're allowed to be seeing.
Right. Well, it's really interesting to just think about even kind of all the things we've just been talking about this whole podcast about how that there is a spiritual realm. And again, that's really hard for us to quantify physically in this 3-dimensional plane we're in, where everything we have to feel, touch, and taste and all that kind of stuff. But when you're talking about like CERN, we're talking about like electronics and science and all this weird stuff. When you're talking about drugs, you're talking about like a chemical reaction in your body that changes your body chemistry somehow, and then you see things. But again, what if it's all kind of like the same thing, but the difference is through science you can kind of peer into the spiritual to some degree, and also through drugs you can, but it's not the way they try to make you think it is by like just a physical thing you do. It's more like, you know, if you guys have never experimented with marijuana, lots of people know. And again, I'm not telling you people you guys need to do this, but if you smoke it like the first couple times, you don't even get high.
That's because you just introduced the demon in the ritual.
Well, that's what I'm getting. That's what I'm getting into. Well, I mean, again, I'm just saying. Let me cook here, Brian.
I made sure I got high the first time.
Well, the point is, it's not unusual for people to not experience the high or even a buzz hardly, which is weird. It's like, it's not like if you drink alcohol, I didn't get drunk this time when I drank a 12-pack the first time I drank. It's like, no, that does not happen. That experience does not exist. But people can smoke a lot their first time and not experience the high. So is it the drug that's doing it, or is it the access that you're getting into a spiritual frame of mind? And is that what I mean, that's the only thing that kind of really logically makes sense, is that you experience the same hallucinations if you are on this spiritual wavelength, and it's not an hallucination. It's a real thing that you've peered behind the veil. But again, I would say that you're not getting to a higher vibrational plane. You're not getting to an ascended frame of mind. You're getting down to the dirt. You get into the upside down when you do that. What do you think?
Yeah. I think you're definitely peering into a spiritual realm. There is some behind the code reality that people are seeing. I think it is a lower realm. I think it's almost like looking at the pipes behind. Somebody explained that once, and I was like, oh, that's a good analogy. It's like looking at the pipes behind the wall. And so you are looking into a realm of reality, and it is the fractal realm. That fractal realm is the demonic realm, and it's like chaos there. And that's why they want to be in us.
Pharmakia, it's sorcery.
Yeah. They want to possess us because in their reality, it's just chaos and fractal, like broken nonsense, it seems like. And so,
right, like in the upside down, everything is kind of like decayed and things are kind of floating around.
I've got a lot to say about the marijuana topic.
Yeah, well, you know what?
Go for it.
I'll just say this one last thing, and I'll let you cook. That what I really noticed is that I had my time. I had my season where I experimented with that. Well, let's just say I did more than experiment. But I did know, like, I always had this kind of very careful balance that I think maybe once I got past the age of kind of innocence with it, if I smoked too much, I had horrible time. Like, I was one of, I mean, there's people who could obviously smoke it like Cheech and Chong, and they could just have the best time being high as a kite, and they could just casually go.
Anxiety.
They could casually go about your day and all this. Yeah, all it did was just bring on massive amounts of fear and anxiety. And now I do kind of look back and I wonder, is it because I did have like a spiritual sensitivity where I was like,
100%.
I felt in danger. Like,
Bro.
you know, like, I mean, but it wasn't like I wasn't aware how I would feel and I never got used to it. I literally was like, oh shoot, I had too much. And now it's like, I just got to, a lot of times I would just say, I have to get some strong alcohol or something like that. Cause now I got to really kind of dull myself out because I am going to be an anxious, nervous wreck. And I'm going to feel my heartbeat beating out of my chest. And yeah, it was like, was I too close to the spiritual?
Yeah. I'll say one thing and then let Aaron go, because I'll tell you right now how many people I talk to that smoke weed. And when I talk to them, after I've talked to them, they can't smoke weed anymore. And all I do is talk to them. This has happened to countless of my friends and people that I know. When I start to talk to them about demons, they can no longer, they go from smoking weed every day to being fine to all of a sudden being like totally anxiety ridden when they smoke weed. It has to do with how awake your spirit is. So when people's spirit are woken up and they try to burn that offering to that demon, all they can sense is the fear that the demon has when he shows up, because he's like, oh shoot, oh shoot, oh shoot. And the demon is projecting its own anxiety and fear and frustration onto the person smoking weed. So the more spiritual you become, the harder it is for you to smoke weed. You can't smoke weed if you're like too spiritually aware.
So I don't believe there is a demon of marijuana at all. In fact, because why did he give it to us, right? Genesis has a lot to say about every green plant, and it comes from a seed. It's a green plant. I think that there are very legitimate medicinal purposes for marijuana, but I also
you're supposed to eat it. I don't think you're supposed.
Well, you
to,
know, it's if you eat it, you get like really high.
But it is different. It affects your body.
You get high for like a really long time if you eat it.
What we have access to nowadays is not what it was back in the day, right? Like most of the modern day stuff, like if someone's like, oh, it came from God, he created it. No, dude, that stuff you're vaping, it did not come from God. Like maybe there's a little bit of a trace of what was originally here, but it's not the same anymore. Big tobacco, like Brian was talking about earlier, they got their hands on it a while back, and who knows what's even in it anymore. There's probably psychoactive stuff that's got nothing to do with THC or cannabinoids or any of that stuff. But I would say that it really comes down to intentions, right? Like there are people that need that stuff. There are people that need it they might have like cancer. Well, there might be people that have like bone marrow cancer and they rub that on as a topical and it literally takes their pain away. People that love Jesus.
Sure.
And so like, I don't think there is a demon of cannabis or a demon of weed. What I do think is I think it's a portal. And I think it opens up a door, and I think that if your intentions are bad, or if you're taking it when you shouldn't be taking it, and then you're opening a door and you're allowing things to come in and attack you. Because I can speak from my own experience. It was like JT, like I would smoke it. I grew it. Like so I would like smoke it. I'd bake with it. I'd cook with it. I'd make pills with it. I'd make like every way you could use it. I did, and no issues whatsoever. And then I had like a really crazy near-death experience unrelated to marijuana. And every single time I would use it after that point, the only way I can explain it is the second it would hit me, it was like Lord of the Rings when he would put on the ring and the Eye of Sauron would go,
that's exactly
boom!
what I felt. I was like,
and it would see me, and I knew it saw me, and immediately the demonic realm knew. And the only way I can say it is that I was thrust into a realm I did not belong in anymore. And so
now
I
you're
think
really, now you're really cooking. Yeah, exactly.
I think we're all saying really ultimately the same thing though, and slightly different, but I do still think it's got its purposes for certain people. But like, I have no business using it anymore. I have no business. Like, there's no way I can justify it. I do go to the Holy Spirit for my healing. I do call upon the name of Jesus for my healing in every single scenario. And, you know, like the argument could be had, like, you know, Tylenol's worse for you than that or this or whatever. Like we're talking about pharmakia, we're talking about drugs. But like at the end of the day, if you look at it from like a vibrational perspective, it's like when we are in sync with Jesus and we're walking in lockstep with Jesus, we're up here vibrationally. Like we're in a place we can't reach naturally on our own because we're walking hand in hand with him. But that's a low vibration drug, if you want to call it that, or something to induce. And I mean, just as much as caffeine is a drug, that's a low vibrational thing. So it's like, if you're up here and then you take something like that, it does exactly what it does. It brings you down to that level and throws you into a realm that you just don't belong in.
I guess the truth is, I don't judge anybody if they got Vicodin when they came out of like a surgery and something like that. I got to get over it. But yeah, if you take,
I agree,
too many of them, or if you take them when you don't need them, then yeah, that's what I'm
saying. So intentions and heart posture.
It's against your you're going against your probably unconscious. No, it's if you take
Your heart
medicine
knows.
that makes you feel good for recreational purposes. So like, do you need that? Again, like we live under faith. But yeah, so I would say that it's better for you than a lot of the opioids that doctors pass out. So I guess that's the thing. But Yeah, I always wondered that about myself, is that like I would see my friends who obviously might have had seared consciences, and they could just do all the thing, like I grew up like trying to be good, and I was not that good, but I was not that bad either. It was more like I was trying to be bad, and I did not really enjoy it because
I can relate
I
to that.
felt guilty about the things I did. And I would, it reminds me of the Psalms, is when David's saying, do not envy sinners. Like, cause I'm like sitting back there and I'm like, I'm hearing about, you're sitting in a dorm room and you're hearing of all the things that these guys did, and they just don't, they don't have a shred of a guilty conscience. And like, like as a person who was a believer living in sin, I would envy that, because I'd be like, I wish I could do all that stuff and completely kick back and just enjoy my day with no anxiousness the next day. But I couldn't. Of course, now I look at it as like that was a good thing, that God
For
was
sure.
like, you don't want to do this. You don't want that.
Well-
You definitely don't want a debased conscience and mind.
Like Brian said, your heart knows.
Yeah.
And so when you reach a certain point in your walk with Jesus, and the Holy Spirit is working through you, living in you, and you're abiding in Him, it's, yeah, I mean, at that point in time, I would say at that point in time, it does become an offering to the demonic.
Well,
because
it's a demonic offering. It's not a demon of weeds per se. It's just an offering to demons. And demons actually know there's certain things when you burn, they show up. And when you burn weed, they show up. When you burn sage, they show up. When you burn tobacco, they show up. There's certain plants, for whatever reason. I don't know if it's like a desecration to God's creation, and maybe you're supposed to not burn them. Maybe you're supposed to eat them, and maybe burning them is somehow like poison, is like a desecration of God's creation, and that's why the demons show up when you burn them. But when you burn them, I'll tell you what, the demons show up.
Well, what if it's something similar again, like we were talking last week about AI technology, and then actually on the Ancient Angels podcast, we got to ask about that. Is it like a Ouija board? And we've often compared it to that, where the Ouija board itself, the idols have no power inherently. Like even the satanic idols, they have no power inherently, but it's the intention that gives the demon access. So if you go in there, you could partially open a door, right? Or you could just, like the vampire, you can invite him right in the house, depending on your heart posture in the situation. Maybe God allows them to mess with you a little bit in order to make you say, ooh, don't want that. And then you go back for seconds. Now, like God says, demon, do whatever you want to him. Kind of a situation.
Yeah, He'll turn us over to it if we continue to intentionally go back to it. I mean, Scripture supports that.
You know in your heart what you should or shouldn't do, and you need to listen to your heart. And that's why people that become more spiritually aware get anxiety, and they can't smoke weed anymore. It'll happen to you. Just watching this podcast right now, I guarantee you, if you're somebody that smokes weed, you're probably going to feel a little bit different just because we're talking about this right now. So if you smoke it, I'm just warning you. I've had this conversation with so many weed smokers, and literally their heart, something happens. They become more spiritually aware, and then boom. Just like your death experience that you had or whatever, that made you more spiritually aware, and then the anxiety comes.
Yeah, well, I'll just say this, is I know that at one point I was going through like a really rough patch in my life. I was actually had a script for like Xanax back in the day, and because I was so anxious, and I would take them just before I went to bed, just so I didn't want to function on it because I couldn't, but like I would take it before I went to bed. But then I remember my brother kind of talking about some of his own kind of struggles about things, and he said, yeah, but when I started using this, I didn't pray and I didn't rely on God when I was anxious, so then I did this. And I remember he wasn't trying to convict me, but I was being convicted myself about, well, yeah, I guess if you just have a pill or you just have a bowl to smoke, well, then you don't need to go to, that's your crutch, right? Like, so then you go to that for relief instead of, well, it's like you're treating the symptom, right? And that's basically what we do in society now. We treat the symptom, but like, what if you could be healed of the thing? Like if you're not really fixing the problem when you're just treating the symptoms. So the same way that you could use that, you could use alcohol, you could use marijuana, you could use, anxiety medicine. You could use.
Now you're talking deliverance, bro.
Well, you could use
Like,
exercise, which that's another thing that I used to do. Is that I'm anxious, I'm going to go for a run. I'll go work out. I'm not saying that's bad, but I guess if you put that in front of trying to actually treat the problem,
yeah,
go right to the source of the problem, then then even a good thing like working out could be a bad thing.
Well, a lot of, not always, I'm not going to say that because that's dangerous, but a lot of times a lack of healing comes from a lack of having the faith to do what it takes, because most people have a certain level in which they stop doing what it takes, right? So it's like, I pray he didn't heal me, but like, how quickly did you run to the Vicodin? Like, how quickly did you run to the Percocet? How quickly did you run to the bong? Like, how quickly did you run to the edibles? How quickly did you run to, like, you name it? Like, did you go without? Did you fast something? Not even necessarily just food. Did you spend time in prayer and meditation? Did you focus on the face of Jesus? Like, what did you do as an offering to him to show that you're willing to do whatever it takes? I can only speak for myself. In most cases where there wasn't deliverance or there wasn't healing, it's because I was inserting whatever at some point instead of fully trusting him and fully relying on him. I was trying to find the fix myself.
All right, this is kind of a weird one, Aaron. You kind of seem to get in the same kind of algorithms on TikTok as I do, probably. So I wonder if this has come across your For You feed. This is a weird one, and this kind of is on theme for this episode. It's Demons Bro kind of a situation.
Have you heard about mole world dreams? Why do I ask? Because people are coming together and telling their story about how they're all having the same dreams and waking up in the same places. It's like going to sleep and having a dream and then waking up and saying to yourself, that felt so real. Everyone online is talking about this place called Mole World. Thousands upon thousands of people have claimed to have visited the same place while dreaming. What if this place, hear me out, is not a dream, but just turns out to be a part of a simulation? People have described that in the videos that the escalators in the mall led to nowhere, always with no, and also elevators with floors that did not match what they said. People have also claimed to see a playground in their dreams, and also claim to hear children laughing, but none can be seen. So my question to you is, have you ever experienced this dream of a mole world? Do you think that maybe this is a place where we go to reset our minds, to get our thoughts? Or is it just where we actually live? And when we wake up, we're in the simulation. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. And as always, I'd love to hear from you.
Aaron, have you been to Mall World?
I haven't, and before we talk, I just want to say, in the name of Jesus, I rebuke any demonic energy coming from that whole theory or the whole premise of all of that. I think that it's possible that some people were dreaming of that place. It's possible that a lot of people were dreaming of that place. But by people making content of it, like those people, I'm not talking about us talking about it, but like the people that are perpetuating it, like that guy and others, they're essentially like performing witchcraft on people, because they're now implanting and suggesting the whole concept and idea into people's minds that might not have otherwise known about it. And so they might start to dream about it now, whereas they weren't dreaming about it because they didn't even know about it before. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I guess that's the thing. It's weird. Should I play any more videos about it? I mean, there's just a couple. Yeah,
you can if you want to. I mean, it's not. It's. I didn't mean to like poop on your whole thing.
I don't want to be guilty of maybe putting that idea into people's
heads. That's wisdom. Hold on. I want your whole audience to understand that right there, dude. That's why you guys watch JT. Because no, I'm serious, because we can talk about this in real time and you can hear what I say and realize that there's like some wisdom and some truth in that, and go, maybe, maybe I shouldn't. I mean, that's up to you whether you do or you don't. I think it's one of those things where it's like, there's so much familiarity in that concept of Mall World, right? Like they tried doing it with the back rooms and all of that stuff with the back rooms, and this is kind of like the next iteration of the back rooms. It's like the back rooms plus mall world, like all of those pictures and images and the way they talk about it look like every single major mall you and I grew up in, that we hung out in, the arcades that we played
Right,
in
yeah.
inside of these malls. Like, it's such a familiar concept and it's such a familiar place. It's so easy for us to go into our minds. Like, I see that and I just instantly, I hear the creepy music, but I just feel nostalgia. I just
Yeah.
see that and I just remember being at the mall with my brothers, and like, it makes me sad that we can't go back to that place, you know?
Well, you know what's really crazy is that maybe I'll play them and just you guys can skip them if it gives you a bad vibe. But you know what's interesting is that a kid from the 80s and all that kind of stuff. I grew up, going to the mall. Yeah, like we didn't have good video. We had like Nintendo. Nintendo was fine, but when you would go to the arcade at the mall, now you got like
Street Fighter 2, Mortal
good
Kombat.
graphics. You could play like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, and you could play with like
Cruising
4
USA.
people. And yeah, it's not like today where the kids get fast food 5 times a week. It was like you'd go to the mall and then you would get McDonald's or Chick-fil-A or something. But and then you'd go see the movie. You'd go to a movie at the mall. The mall was kind of cool back in the day.
Home away from home.
But what's really interesting is that where I live, that I've seen like so I'm from Virginia, and there's a Facebook page I started following. It was like Abandoned Virginia, and they were showing these malls that were like local to me, and I didn't realize they were just dilapidated and that they're not in use anymore. And there's one mall that like is thriving where we live. But when my old company, we built one of the nicest malls, like it's in Norfolk, Virginia. One of the nicest malls like in the whole area. Like comparable to the ones in Northern Virginia where like Tyson's Corner is, like around DC area. But they had like a Nordstrom's and all that kind of stuff, and we were like part of building the Nordstrom's. And this mall is nice. It was still nice because it had Nordstrom's, Dillard's. It was like one of the first places that had like an iPhone store, like the Apple store. And it had really kind of premium shops compared to what our area's used to. Well, after COVID, I remember at one point I was like, we're going to go there and check it out. Only 10% of the stores were open there. And it's still really nice. And it was like, it's the spookiest thing. And now, like literally the city is not going to keep it. All the major kind of anchor stores had left. And yeah, I guess maybe that's part of it. Like, I'm thinking like I've watched Stranger Things, and it might be like season 2 or 3. I can't remember which one. Yeah, they're working in the mall and stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's like this, it is like it's a bygone era completely. And you can imagine why certain people would kind of have dreams and nostalgia about it. And it just be, because I mean, dreams are weird. Dreams are weird because it's like in this dream, like it's an endless mall, but it's kind of like nothing really works right in a dream. You ever try to run from the bad guys in the dream? For some reason,
or
you
shoot
can't,
them.
You're just like, you
ever look at your hands in your dreams?
What's that?
Have you ever looked at your hands in your dream?
I always hear like, well, you don't have them, or is that the case? Or?
I've had different experiences. Like I don't always have control of what's going on in my dreams. Like usually I can wake myself up if it's an uncomfortable or a bad dream. Sometimes I can like look down in my dreams. I have no control over them though. Like whatever happens. But I have been able to look down in my dreams a few times, and like there's been times where they were just like nubs, like just little
that's
nubs.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, times where they were just like regular hands, they were hooks. Like it's always something different. It's so bizarre. But no, like my cell phone never works in my dreams, and guns never work in my dreams.
Right. Well, that's the thing. It always seems like that. Well, it doesn't always seem like this, but this is the dream that most people kind of seem to have the same dream is the dream of falling. Or like falling, and of course, when you do, like you literally do lose your stomach, and a lot of times it wakes you up. The other one is somebody's chasing you, but you can't run. Like you can't, like you literally you just can't move. That's weird. But that's a common dream that people have. But you're right. Is this, and we'll play another video. And again, if you guys are not catching this vibe, I just think it's weird. I just want people just to be aware that this is a thing that popped up in my For You feed, and I was not looking for it. It's going quite viral because people are like, it's resonating with people. It's like it's
huge right now.
It's something that people are talking about. But is an idea that this idea is a seeds planted into people, and then they start having these dreams, or is it something more nefarious? I mean, it kind of does fit into what we're talking about. It's like this kind of a matrix idea. It's like this lucid dreaming that's kind of like a hive mind thing, like the people are connecting to.
Well, I mean, the astral realm is real. There are people that can intentionally project themselves into the astral realm, and we find ourselves there sometimes in our dreams. But there's nothing demonic about it when we end up there because of happenstance. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
we don't
Your
project
intention
ourselves
is not
there on purpose.
Yeah, your intention
Right.
is not to get there. All right, let's check out. Actually, this video probably goes right with that.
I made a few videos on my TikTok account about the GATE program and astral projecting, and we're all coming to the conclusion that we visit the same places, one of those places being Mall World. If you're someone that's really prone to lucid dreams or astral projecting, you might have found yourself in a place like this. I love this picture because I found it on r/Mall World, and I actually had to scroll a really long time to get it. And I know it's AI, but it's probably one of the only pictures that really accurately describe what Mall World is like for me. I've also been to Mall World when it's like a little more normal looking, but there's something always eerie about it. Like, it's pretty normal, and then weird shadow figure over here. The reason why Mall World is so common for people that astral project is because it's a liminal space. And liminal spaces are the places that you go right before you project out into the astral realm. And according to those declassified CIA documents, this exists in level 9 and 10, just like where the pool rooms exist. Malls are one of the most common liminal spaces because they're very significant generationally and culturally. And there's so many elements to it that make it liminal, make it an in-between space. So the different levels to it, and then the stairs going to and from, all in between or liminal spaces. Or any long and dark hallways or walkways that represent in between your internal dreamscape and the external dreamscape. A recent revelation that I made about Mall World is that I believe it also exists in the collective realm, which exists around level 9 or level 10 as well. And that's where your consciousness is shifting from focusing on your internal world to a world where you acknowledge that other energies also have influence on you. A good example of a dream that exists in the collective realm would be a library, signifying that it holds a collective knowledge. And in a sense, malls are also a library of collective knowledge, but instead of books, it's stores and all of these different elements that the collective comes together and puts it all in this one big place.
I mean, I kind of don't know what she was talking about. I mean, she was acting like that there was some kind of CIA level for...
No, so there were CIA documents that were leaked that basically taught people how to astral project. Like, there are actual government CIA documents that were released that not only confirm that astral projecting is real, but it actually walks you through how to do it. It gives you the steps on how to do it. And I just want to say, nobody that believes in Jesus or that is seeking after Jesus or filled with the Holy Spirit should even begin to dabble with that or mess with that, because you will be exposed there. That's just not something you want to screw with. I would imagine that the Holy Spirit will probably protect you, and you will probably be terrified before the process even begins, because the second you start to open yourself up to that, you will feel the demonic attack. But like, what's creepy to me about what she was just sharing, by the way, that was an insane segue, because I had no idea you were going to go into that, and I just so happened to mention astral projecting right before that.
Exactly. That's why I said I had to play it then.
That's crazy timing. But the first picture she shared tripped me out, because it literally looked exactly like a scene from Jordan Peele's movie Us. Have you seen that movie? Oh my goodness. I only watched it one time. It's been a long time since I saw it, but it's this premise that all of us have a clone or another version of us somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these people that stay in this place got out, and they were going and killing like their real versions of themselves.
Oh, okay.
And their alternate
I've heard
version
of it then,
was taking over. Well, the place that they hung out in looked exactly like that first picture you showed. Just a long hallway with just these weird corridors. Like, that's so bizarre. That's so weird to me. You're gonna have to look that up and see what you can.
I might have to
pull
watch
up a
that
picture
movie
of that when you do it. But I don't know, man. Dreams are weird. Dreams are weird. I used to share my dreams. In fact, when I was on Facebook at one point in time, I'm not anymore. But when I had a whole group dedicated to dreams and sharing dreams, and then I started realizing there was witches and warlocks in there, and they were using everyone's information
they could
against them.
Manipulate people by telling them their dreams.
Yep, they could manipulate people. In some cases, they were even able to track them down based on the knowledge that they gave them in the astral realm. They started to see some of these people in their dreams. Like, it got really weird really quickly. I don't know, man. That kind of goes hand in hand with this. There's this technology out nowadays where you can rent server space and use brain power from a server space that's operated on little petri dish brains. Have you heard about that?
Say that again?
There's operating systems that can be accessed, and you can use them remotely, like random access memory, like computing power, and you can use them to complete tasks, and you can rent these things. But what they are is they are biological. They are literally biological, basically little brains in a petri dish. And they're using these things as actual like CPU processors.
I've saw that. I remember looking up, and I might have made a TikTok about it a long time ago about how, they were using some kind of little brain to fly some kind of drone or something like that. I mean, at least they were kind of maybe theorizing that was possible.
No, it's a real thing. You can literally
it was like,
rent them.
It was
do
like
stuff.
Straight out of like, this is a nightmare.
But here's the part that's weird that ties into this, and that's that when they're not being occupied and they're not being used, they play them a video feed of butterflies flying around in a happy environment to keep
Sounds
them
like totally
docile.
MK Ultra stuff.
But it also is like they're putting those little brains into a dream state when they're not being used.
Oh, that's really interesting.
That's the parallel that I'm trying to make here. And I've always felt, I don't understand Dreamland. I don't understand the dream state, but I will say I've said many times, I almost feel sometimes like Dreamland is more real than this. Like Dreamland to me feels more real sometimes.
Spirit realm
reality.
kind of, right? Spiritual realm.
But I'm always working in the dream state. Always. I'm always working. I'm always doing something work related.
Oh, that's
I'm learning a new job. I'm teaching a job. Yeah, dude, I haven't had a relaxing dream in a couple decades, man. Pray for me.
So check this out, Aaron. So I got a theory about the small world thing. What if what I said earlier might relate to why people are dreaming about the mall right now? For one, yes, you have the component of nostalgia. So that could be something that's maybe not an uncommon dream. But what if it is related to the spiritual, and then all these dilapidated malls are being filled with unclean spirits and stuff like that?
Dude, like they're okay.
What if
So
that
they're,
is
like,
their what if that is
harnessing-
their point of reference, and it's like that they are what if they are influencing people, that's where
filling these empty spaces with demonic energy, like channeling us to bring them there or something, right?
Yeah,
That's
so
kinda
like
what you're saying?
if these things do have a funk in them now, right? Like a spiritual funk. And these entities are not necessarily bound to these malls, but that's where they, I don't know, I guess it's where they hang
They
out.
could find
That's
some
where they
kind of
hang out
refuge
at
there.
Aladdin's castle and Flipper McCoy's, and they're playing video games when nobody else is there. But the point is, they are there because nobody really lives there anymore. Yeah, they're putting this vibe into people that's where they, you know what I mean? Like that's where
They're
they
manifesting demonic energy and harnessing it to like go dwell in these places. Ultimately, is what you're saying.
Well, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, what if it is like a situation? Like I said, I'm not recommending this, but one of these malls around the area. The other one was actually still really nice. It just totally spooky because there's no. It's just like so bizarre. This really nice mall, and it just
It's a ghost town.
Yeah, for real. But then this other one was just spooky as all get out because it was like literally like parts of it was kind of like in decay and stuff. And I remember going to this mall many times as a kid. And what if it is almost like that people are having these dreams about these mall worlds, and then they're going to go, I don't know, kind of go explore one of these dilapidated malls. You know what I mean? Like if all these kind of younger people are getting those dreams, hey, let's go to the mall. And then
They've never had more incentive than now to go break into these places and film themselves in these places. That's absolutely gonna happen.
Yeah, man, that makes sense. And of course, it is interesting that to tie it back into pop culture, again, I think Stranger Things season 2, a lot of it takes place in the mall. That is all about 3-letter agencies. I mean, literally the whole show is based on Project Montauk, and Camp Hero. The story of Stranger Things is all about 11 is going through some CIA mind control operation, 3-letter agency mind control. And that's what the real story of Stranger Things is. Who knows exactly what they did to those kids? I mean, I think it involved torture and stuff, but they were trying to get the kids to astral project. Yeah, I mean, I think Stranger Things shows you a lot of stuff. What's fascinating about that show is that it's actually based on a true story. Most people don't know about that. It's based on this story about Camp Hero, where literally those 3-letter agencies were doing experiments on children and animals in this former Air Force base. Were they trying to open up portals? Yeah, I think they were. They were getting these kids to astral project and all that stuff. Think about the story of 11. So her name is 11, which again, in all the witchcraft stuff, 11, Aleister Crowley said that was the magic number. And then later in the show, they start calling her El. And El, Elohim, El means God. I mean, just think about the monster in the first one is the Demigorgon. There is a demon called the Gorgon, these mythologies. Like, that's a real entity. So when they're talking about the demon Gorgon, it's literally a demon. Guys, there's nothing new under the sun. Like, literally, that's the real story. I mean, was there a little girl like 11? I think it was mostly boys, probably because they're, I don't even want to say probably why, but that I think it was mostly boys. And that's probably why 11 looks like a boy in the show. They cut her hair real short because that's what the show is really about. That they are trying to get them to astral project. And it's probably not a coincidence that eventually, like, the season 2 takes place at the mall. And then all this stuff is about astral projecting, dream worlds, upside down. Yeah, and I think that's what I was going to get into is earlier about how this spiritual dimension is real. And it's the upside down is the low vibe. But interesting, in the Bible, I want to say Paul, I can't remember exactly which book it is, but he mentions that somebody has an experience going into the third heaven, and he wasn't sure if it was real or if it was a vision. And like I said, that's a really weird thing that Paul says that. Like, what does that even mean? It's like, it's almost like he's saying that somebody was astral projecting up to heaven, and he didn't even know if it was real or not. You know what I mean? Like, which obviously that seems like, again, don't attempt to astral project to heaven. But because obviously, like, highly in tune with the Holy Spirit, Christians like Paul didn't get to experience that, right? But many people who, well, I mean, I would say that, let's just say almost everybody, like maybe 1 in a million doesn't experience when they astral project, maybe probably less than that. They astral project into the upside down. And then you have, you've really opened up yourself to the Demigorgon and all the demons and stuff like that in there.
No, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's pretty accurate. That's pretty accurate. There was also a decent amount of mall scenes in The Last of Us season 1.
Okay. Well, yeah, so maybe
2 or 3 of the episodes.
Maybe that's what it is. It's a for one, you can't put it past Hollywood that they wouldn't be negatively trying to influence us, which they probably
trying to turn these empty, vacant malls into portals for the upside down demons to come into and dwell.
Right. But at the same time, it also makes sense that they are trying to monetize 80s nostalgia, 80s and 90s nostalgia too. So it's two things at once. It's also kind of a weird thing, like our memories and our kind of the melancholy view, or maybe even like the rose-colored goggles we have about our childhoods and how the past is always so much better than the present.
Totally.
That's almost kind of a demonic type thing, because it makes you not be content in the present and be anxious about the future, because the past is safe and it was fun, even though we're all there and it was not as great as you remember it.
No, I just had that conversation with a really dear friend recently, and that's that, so anxiety is fear of the future, depression is, being regretful of the past or maybe staying in the past, and the enemy, the kingdom of darkness, will do anything to keep us anywhere but in the present moment.
Yeah,
And
being
that's
content.
that's where we find the spirit of the living God, is in the present moment. Like, we find him here right now. And so it's like, it doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter what it is. Some parents, they get fed up with their kids. It's like, oh my gosh, like, I can't wait for them just to grow up and move on, and like, I need my space or whatever, right? And then, or pick whatever environment you want that's driving you crazy. But it's like, if you can just see it for what it is in that moment and be so thankful that you're in that place at that time and that moment, you will find the spirit of Jesus. You will find the Holy Spirit in that moment. And then that also opens you up to, and gives you an opportunity to do unto the least of these, right? So, like, let me just give you another example. By not focusing on the past and not focusing on the future, let's just say your significant other comes up to you and they're like, oh my gosh, can you help me with my hair really quick or whatever? And it's like, you could just hurry up and, like, whatever, brush it for them. This is just one example. Brush it for them, try to get it over with because you got something to do. Or you could be, this is an opportunity for me to do this as if I'm doing it unto Jesus. Because he tells us to, whatever we do unto the least of these, we do unto him. You can't think like that if you're not living in the present moment. And so the enemy is going to do whatever he can to take us out of the present moment. But I will say that's a hard one, because, man, the 80s,
Yeah, I know.
I don't know. They were just a beautiful time. They were such a beautiful time. Like, if I could go back and live in the 80s right now, and be the same age, this age, and
I know.
I would do it in a heartbeat, dude.
Well, I guess that's the thing, and I want to say that I agree with that. I would just say, I would caution this, is the main reason I think people are nostalgia and they like to live in the past is because the future is scary because it's unknown, right? And then so no matter what problem you have looking back, you're like, it really wasn't that bad because obviously I did survive it. I guess the truth is, whatever you're going through right now, you will survive it. So you know what I mean? Like that, but it's comfortable because it was safe enough. I mean, obviously certain people's past is not safe, but you know what I'm saying? Like that's why a lot of us look back at the simpler time. But yeah, it does impede on your growth in the future and your contentment today. But I'm going to play this last video because I know we got a little dark and deep, but I thought this video was funny just because this fits.
I was raised in the 1900s, which means insults are like words of affection to me. That's just how we talked to each other back then. Oh, that must have been really hard. I bet your childhood was difficult and you must have a lot of trauma. No, we didn't have trauma in the 90s. They hadn't invented it yet. We just did all the stuff we had to do, and then if you felt sad afterwards, then you just would watch Billy Madison or play Super Nintendo or something. I had a great childhood. It was like Leave It to Beaver, but with better music. We were outside all the time, just running around the suburbs. Just nice kids from good families with clothes from JCPenney. And also, we talked to each other like we were in rival prison gangs. Like the stuff that we would say to our best friends, they wouldn't put on HBO today. And nobody took it seriously. It was perfect. So if you see me out in the wild today and you give me a compliment and it looks like I'm uncomfortable, that's why. If you want to make me feel good, you got to say something terrible. So I hope this helps.
That is
definitely different times, man.
That is so true. And I said, that's the thing about me and my friends. And I think the quality I like the least in people is that they can't take a joke. Because if I can't joke with you, we really can't be friends.
No.
You know what I mean? Like the people who can give a joke but cannot take one. That actually, you know what? I take that back. That's what I find really the quality I find horrible in people. I get it. Certain people are sensitive and they're not really good at ribbon. And I wouldn't really make fun of them. But the people who can joke on somebody else, but they cannot take one, no. We cannot be friends if you're like that.
Yeah, no, those people didn't play outside and crack their head open on the concrete, and
they take themselves too much.
I mean?
They take themselves too seriously. I think it's a prideful thing when you can't be self-deprecating and know that you have a lot of things that can be made fun of.
There's a lot of factors to it. There's a fine balance between being sensitive to other people and not taking things too seriously. Like there really is, you know. But a lot of it just has to do with self-awareness. You know, you've got to be self-aware. Like you've got to be capable of understanding, like, okay, like this person loves me. I can't take this too seriously, or whatever the case is. But I don't know. You're talking about also people that probably are suffering from living in the future, living in the past. And so in that moment, you're just trying to have fun with them and just be stupid and silly. Like me and my brothers were so bad to each other, dude. We loved each other, but we called each other the worst things you could imagine. It was awful. Like the jokes that we did to each other, and we were straight up cruel. But we love each other to this day. So yeah, I agree with that.
You know, I guess the pendulum, I think, swings too far, you know, all the time in society, where like, is bullying a good thing? No, it's not a good thing. But is it better than making everybody really soft and trying to
giving
make
everybody a participation trophy?
Yeah, and try to take the rough edges out of things? Because I think sometimes it's like if your friend's wearing something that he should get made fun of for wearing, you're actually doing him a favor. Because it's like if you know you're in the dorm and some guy's you're gonna wear that shirt out. You look like I don't know. I don't even know if I'm gonna say what I would have said back then. Look, you can guess what I said. You're not gonna wear that out with me.
No, whether
and
they
then,
look
you know,
goofy...
and so the guy would feel kind of bad about himself for a minute, but then hopefully he would go change. You know what I mean? Like that. It's kind of like you have a nerd who's still playing with his, you know, gets caught playing with his Legos when he's in high school. I'm not saying it's necessarily bad, but at some point you're putting away childish things. So like your friends who are more mature than you'd be like, "You dork! What are you doing? Stop reading comic books. That's, you know, it's gay." You know, you go. Of course, now it's not because being nerdy is chic. But some of these people needed a wedgie at one point in their life because it does help somebody toughen up. And yeah, like it's better to hear. What do they say? It's better to hear I can't remember what the proverb is. It's basically like a rebuke from an enemy than what is like a what do they say?
From
it's
a friend than a
it's like
compliment
a
from the
rebuke
enemy
from
or something like that?
a friend or a kiss from an enemy or something like that. I don't know,
Yeah.
something like that. Sorry, I'm usually better at Bible references, but the point is that it's better to get the bad news from your friend than somebody to say, "Oh, you're fine. You're totally the best at this sport," and then so you get into the real world and you find out they can't handle it. And I think that there's a lot of that going on. But also, I do think that why I like to make fun of my friends and I like to be able to laugh at myself, because at some point you do have to just not take yourself so seriously.
Yeah.
Right. And if you stop taking yourself so seriously, the truth is we're not all the best looking. We're not all the funniest. We're not all this. We're not all the smartest. We're not all the best at these things. And if you can laugh and you just accept it, it's like, you know, it's like kind of like at some point, well, it's true. So you just laugh at it and you just pick up something, you know, we're not talking about being like totally mean, even though when I was in college, these guys were friggin' cruel. But you get thick skin eventually, and then you just be able to handle it.
Yeah, there's a difference between telling a joke and being a straight up a-hole. Like there is a difference, and sometimes they merge a little bit together.
Yeah, sometimes you got to find the line of what that is.
So Proverbs 27:5-6, open rebuke is better than secret love. Faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful.
Okay, there you go. I knew it was something like that. But yeah, exactly. So that's kind of the gist of it, is the fact that, yeah, so you got rebuked for wearing those terrible pants, but at least you didn't wear them in public, right?
For sure.
You didn't let you go out of the house wearing that stuff, or you didn't wear them again when you wore them to school.
And you just gotta be honest, right? Like, it's like if you're hanging out with your buddies and he's wearing something that's super tight and he's overweight, and it's like he'd look better in something that like is maybe a little baggier, and you're giving him, like, if he's offended that you're calling him overweight when everyone knows he's overweight, right? I don't know. I think that's weird. It's like you're either overweight or you're not. And so if they're giving you a hard time about it, do something about it. Lose some weight.
Well, right.
Well,
that's not. Well, that's true. Again, sometimes you got made fun of something, and it caused you to work. I mean, again,
yeah.
This is not to the point of like making somebody feel so bad about themselves where they do something horrible. This is
not shaming. We're not talking about shaming.
This is more like this. If you are somebody's friend, you don't have to treat them with kid gloves. Because again, the world is not caring. And I think that you do have, that's what you see a lot of today, is that you have a lot of delusion, right? And maybe, just maybe, if it was more like the 90s, there would be less of that. I don't know.
Yeah, dude. Me and my brother used to punch each other in the face over Street Fighter. Like,
Not saying that was good, but I would say that it's better than what we have today. Well, anyways, guys, on that note, I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. And if you did, you guys, please check it out early and uncensored on Patreon. Once again, you guys can do that. And you can support this podcast and also support your health and this podcast at the same time. Check out Modern Roots Life or grab a t-shirt. But anyways, guys, I really appreciate you guys. You guys are the best audience. Love you guys. See you next time.
Later, guys.